12 laps in prospect. Ahead of the green flag. It's not when it goes up, it's when it goes down. There's creeping from a few of the rows, but we are underway this weekend for the Mini GP50s. Josh Bannister made a good start, but it's Lucas Brown who leads heading into turn 1 for the first time. A very good start from Josh Bannister. We've got a rider that's gone down and looks like it's Ryan Hitchcock. Will get more confirmation in a few moments, but as the rest of the field do get underway, it will be Lucas Brown leading. Josh Bannister's in second place. In third place, though, Liam, I'm not quite sure who it is, but it is looking very tight.
It looks like it's Harrison Crosby in third spot at the moment. So your championship leader has made a great start from third on the grid, staying in touch with your early race leaders as they approach turn number 10 right now. So this is going to be a great battle. Bannister is looking around the outside. He's out very wide as they come across the start finish line. Turn number 2, but a great run from turn number 2. Up the inside, will Payne get it? No, but Crosby moves into second. Whoa, nearly touched the back of Crosby was Kyle Payne, but that is Bannister in to first, just ahead of Crosby, and Kyle Payne back down to third.
Well, Lucas Brown, get his head down. We'll start considering what he needs to do in order to make some progress in this race. Josh Bannister once again defending hard from Harrison Crosby, the number 69 rider, in a very similar ilk to the Jorge Lorenzo style of number. Now moving their way up towards turn 9 again. Josh Bannister still leads. Lucas Brown already back onto the pair, so it's a three-way scrap for the race lead as it stands, with the fourth rider not too far away either. The rest of the field continue to stream through, but it is still Josh Bannister leading, Harrison Crosby second, Lucas Brown is in third place. Fourth place running well at the moment. And it's just moving from left to right, a very tricky sequence of corners going through turn 2 and turn 3. You've got to really manoeuvre the bikes around. They're just holding each other up at the moment, though, four-way as it is into the third chicane.
And just a bit of an update on the rider that had a bit of a slow start. That was Warwick Brady getting pushed off the grid there, but managed to get back into the race. So Warwick Brady is at the back of the pack in 15th spot at the moment, which is good there. So as they come through the fast turn right-hander to end the lap, it's still Bannister from Crosby from Payne, and there's Payne looking up the inside of Crosby into turn number 1, late on the brakes, over the bumps into turn 1, late on, has chopped his nose off. Crosby was not letting Kyle Payne through there, so that is great stuff from the riders, Bannister, Crosby, and of course Kyle Payne. But Kyle Payne has dropped back ever so slightly from the top 2 in this field, which has given Lucas Brown an incentive to catch up. But look at Crosby, he's looking all the way around the outside. Will he make a move?
Red flag, there's a gone down at turn number 3. Red flag has been called, so this race has been at the moment. I'm not sure who the rider is. We'll try and get you more information when we can, but the third race of the Mini GP50s has been red flagged due to an incident. Sorry to cut over you there, Liam, but it's neutralised the race, which was interesting, because it was actually starting to develop a very interesting four-way scrap for the race lead. Certainly it was.
Yes, absolutely. It looks like the rider is up, so standing up, so that's good to see from the rider that went down there. So yes, the race has been stopped for the moment, but we'll probably get that back away at some point. Now, we Ryan Hitchcock, saw from earlier on in AC40 Pros, Archie Gibbs, who went down, managed to get back up and into this next start of the race. So we might see the same from Ryan Hitchcock, who crashed out early on in this race.
Again, it would be a good reprieve for him if it was. That's the trouble with it, though. Sometimes you may be able to, sometimes the luck doesn't quite go your way, so you just got to feel fortunate. He's popped down to just behind the country box, so I think we should go in a casual, considering he's out in the next race. So maybe not out, but we will wait and see. But the Mini GP50s, we are under a red flag in the third race of the weekend for the Mini GP50s due to an incident, although we will get you as much information on that as we can. We are still here live at round 4 of the 2019 Cool FAB-Racing British Mini Bike Championship. Thank you for joining us. This is Tattershall in Lincolnshire. The sun is out, we're enjoying the racing here this weekend, and well, the rest of the grid just waiting on the circuit at the moment to see what's going to happen. In this kind of situation as a rider, how difficult is it for you? And in fact, as we say that, Ryan Hitchcock's bike is heading back to the rest of the riders. So I think they're going to ask if he can get back onto the grid. So he may well potentially be in with a shout of getting back into this race.
It actually looks like they're turning him round so he can start this race again, which is great news for the championship. And of course, Crosby will try and make his way through the field. But Ryan Hitchcock back in the race, which is great for him and his championship prospects. It's great for us fans. It's great for us calling the race because we get to see even more action for the Mini GP 50s race number 3 Tattershall. So as we stopped the race there, it was Bannister who was leading Crosby, who was leading Payne, and they were starting to get a little bit, well, I wouldn't say nasty out there, but there was a little bit of action going on as we've got a rider pulling off into the pit lane. Not quite sure who that was, Dan.
No, not sure who that was. It's only the one, so we will keep an eye on it as and when. Now everyone else returns to the grid on effectively another green flag lap, but one or two riders perhaps having pulled in to get a bit more fuel in case they didn't quite have enough to do a full restart of the race, and the riders are making their way around. So we'll give you an update as to that at the moment. If it is a full restart, which at this moment it seems most likely it will be, it will be a 12-lap race with Kyle Payne and Josh Bannister on the front row. Now, Josh Bannister didn't make a very good start, and it was a characteristic of him from last season, was struggling with his race starts. His race pace and his racing sort of ability were in question. So having given another chance to pull the clutch in and go, it will be certainly an interesting one to try and find out what he can do if he can make a bit more progress.
Yeah, it'll be great to see if Josh Bannister can get a good start. The number 2 rider there, starting from second position on the grid alongside Kyle Payne. Now, those two have been battling out all weekend for the race victories. As we can see, Ryan Hitchcock will be starting from his normal grid position, so he had a bit of an incident at the start of the previous race, but it's great to see that Ryan Hitchcock is back in the race on bike number 43. And of course, Harrison Crosby will be mixing it in action as well on bike number 69.
And he was mixing it in with the action. He has been doing so all weekend, so it's been good, a very good start indeed for him this weekend. The Marshals are looking around. I think they've been given warm-up laps, so they're heading off onto the circuit again for another warm-up lap. So they've had a few extra laps in order to get everything set up and ready. Now, with the amount of fuel they put in, I think they put enough in for this kind of situation, but you could be running marginals. But just remind us very quickly, Liam, what's the first few rows of the grid going to line up as?
So it's going to be Kyle Payne who leads off pole position once again on bike number 25 ahead of Josh Bannister. Then Harrison Crosby, your championship leader, will be on bike number 69 going off third on the grid. Ryan Hitchcock will be restarting this race from row number 2 on fourth place on the grid. Lucas Brown will be next up in 5th ahead of Sylvan Mounsey on bike 144 from row number 3 in 6th spot. Ronnie Harris is next up in 7th, Harrison McKee in 8th. Thomas Gomez will be in 9th spot on bike number 98 ahead of Ben Jolliffe, who rounds out the top 10 on the grid. After that is Ollie Horner on bike number 70 in 11th position. Carter Brown on bike number 37 will be in 12th spot on the grid ahead of Taylor Stewart Campbell on bike number 97 and 13th. Holly Harris is next up in 14th spot on bike number 15, and running out your runners and riders for the start of this Mini GP 50 race number 3 is Warwick Brady.
Well, the Marshals moving to of the grid. We'll be getting ready to go with the restart of the third race of the weekend for the Mini GP 50s. The green flag was up, now it goes down again, a bit of creeping. Josh Bannister again doesn't make a particularly good start. Kyle Payne therefore leads into the first few corners again. Josh Bannister second, third is Harrison Crosby, fourth is Lucas Brown, fifth is Ryan Hitchcock. Ryan Hitchcock having made it round the first turn, which is good for Ryan to do. Into the infield though for the first time, and it is the race leader of the number 25, Kyle Payne. Got a lot of pressure from behind from Josh Bannister, but Josh Bannister coming under increased attack from the number 69 of Harrison Crosby as well. So a big line of riders, a big queue waiting to try and get past at the moment as they end the first lap of 12 in this restarted race 3. Over the line, and it is the number 25 of Kyle Payne. That's swiftly followed by Josh Bannister. Half a look up the inside into turn number 1. Can't quite make it work, not quite close enough. putting a little bit of pressure on, just saying, I'm here, I'm planning on making a move. Now, we can do this properly, or I'll have you off. Well, we'll wait and see. It's going to be a very feisty race, this third and final race of the weekend.
Well, fingers crossed there's none of that going on in the circuit. It's nice and clean. But Bannister has seen a gap open up between himself and Payne, so he's not finding the form that he did in the first part of this race number 3. Kyle Payne has found his feet and is starting to edge ahead. Crosby is still in third spot for the moment, so the number 69 rider there as they come through turn number 9. Powering towards the final turn, flat out. I was watching him through qualifying there, and it was incredible to watch him go flat out. But look at the run the Bannister has had onto the home straight, late on the brakes, but Kyle Payne is even later. So these two have edged ahead of Crosby and the likes of Brown. We've got the rider down. Is that Crosby once again? Is that
I think it is Crosby, yes.
Is that Crosby? That is Crosby that's down. That's unfortunate for the championship leader. Crosby is out of this race. Number 69, he's up, he's okay. He's trying to get back into the race, and it looks like he is. So he is powering on at the bottom end of the field. Can he make any positions up? So he fell out of third place there. That is your championship leader, Crosby.
As long as he finishes, he's due to score points. There's only 15 qualifiers in this category, so even if he can just get a couple of points, they could be critical come the end of the season. But the battle for the race lead intensifies. It's the number 25, Kyle Payne, over the line. Josh Bannister looks left, looks right, commits to the left-hand side of the circuit. You can't get around the outside there very easily. It can be done, but not especially well. But Kyle Payne is your race leader. Josh Bannister in second. Lucas Brown is in third ahead of Ryan Hitchcock. Ronnie Harris and Harrison McKee are your top 6, followed by Gomez, Brown, Jolliffe and Stuart Campbell, followed by Ollie Horner, Warwick Brady, Holly Harris, Harrison Crosby at the back, and Sullivan Mounsey didn't actually start this race, so that's what we mean by you can score points no matter where you finish. Harrison was actually 17. He was actually only a second and a half behind Holly Harris, so has got a few people within range. They make their way through the mid portions of the circuit, focusing on a few of the riders in the race.
Harrison Crosby has
side
made
by side for the race lead.
You're
Sorry
right,
about that. They're side by side for the race lead going into turn number 1. Couldn't make it work, but that was certainly Josh Bannister, the number 2's best effort at making it through.
He's certainly showing him a wheel, just letting Kyle Payne know that he's there. Josh Bannister will be looking any which way he can to take the lead of this race. Just an update on Harrison Crosby. Crosby has worked his way up to 12th spot after toppling off coming out of turn number 1 a couple of laps ago. But look at Ryan Hitchcock for a third spot. There's a yellow flag out. We've got a rider pulling off the circuit at the entrance to turn number 5. He's got his hands in his head, he's shaking his hips at the bike there, unhappy, storming away, but at least the rider is okay.
That's Thomas Gomez pulling off into retirement, unfortunately. Side by side again for the race leaders, heading down towards turn 1 once again. Josh Bannister on the inside line, leaves a late braking as dare as he could. He couldn't do it though, and Kyle Payne withstanding the pressure. It's third place though, a fantastic battle between Lucas Brown and Ryan Hitchcock, third and fourth. Ronnie Harris isn't too far away from them as well, but into the infield once again our 2 race leaders, still absolutely nose to tail.
They absolutely are. It looked like Bannister went for a move up the inside there, just sat the bike up ever so slightly. He's lost a bit of time to Payne, but once again he will be able to catch that back up. He's very quick coming out of the final turn, but as we see, Hitchcock is right all over the back of Brown. He's closed that gap up over the last couple of laps on the number 29 rider, powering through turn number 9 down towards turn 10. Flat out right-hander. Will we see a move down to turn number 1? The gap is too big at the moment, but further behind them we've got Ronnie Harris and Harrison McKee looking for a battle. Will Harrison McKee look up the inside of Harris? Not doing it just yet. A bit of a gap too big there, but the leaders are still nose to tail, just let you know that off screen for the moment. So that's the closest battle on track. So your number 25 and number 2 of Josh Bannister there.
We're halfway through this race. They're on the infield at turn number 7. They're just making their way through the infield, through the final of the 3 hairpins. It's such a tight section of circuit, you've got to work hard to do it. But the riders in third and fourth, Brown and Hitchcock, they're still also fighting extremely hard. Into turn number 9, the penultimate corner. Ryan Hitchcock getting a little bit deeper, using a very wide line. Up the inside at turn number 1, though, there's a potential change for the lead. Not quite. They're still very, very fighty with each other, but it seems to be they're moderating what they're doing. in terms of just placing the bikes, moving it about, making sure, okay, I want him to know that I'm there, but I'm not actually going to do it, and really reserve the one great move for later on in this race. But with 5 laps to go, they haven't got an awfully lot amount of time to go. They've got to really think about it.
Yes, they do have a lot of time to go, as it looks like Ryan Hitchcock could be, well, making a move on the back of Brown through turn number 7. Not doing it just yet. That was the battle outside the commentary box. But Bannister is very quick out of turn 9 through turn 10. He has to set the bike up. He's carrying so much speed there. Has Payne got a problem, but he's into the lead now. That's Bannister into the lead through turn number 10 after he had to set the bike up because Payne seemed very slow through the fast right-hander to complete the lap there. I wasn't sure if he maybe missed a gear or something there, but Bannister, that could have been a horrible incident if both riders collided. And the rider that pulled off track earlier on looks like he's getting back into the race, so there's still a chance for that rider to score some championship points. Looking back further down the field, has Hitchcock made a move on Brown, Dan?
I don't believe he has at the moment. It's getting very, very feisty, but as they make their way into turn number 6, Lucas Brown got Ryan Hitchcock all over the back of him. It's still nose to tail, but they're almost tripping over each other going through the hairpins. That's not something you need. It's going to mean that a lot of pressure is coming your way. Could mean of a potential disaster as well. But Josh Bannister, your new race leader, 3 laps to go, and he's a quarter of a second in front of Kyle Payne.
Kyle Payne is still tagging onto the back of Bannister. Now that Bannister is ahead, he looks like he could be opening the gap ever so slightly through the tight and twisty section of the track. Nearly running onto the grass was Josh Bannister there, taking a defensive line. Oh, he nearly lost the front, it looked like, as he came out of the fast left-hander there. So Kyle Payne is all over the back of your number 2 rider, Bannister, with just over 2 laps remaining of this mini GP50 race number 3 here from Tattershall, powering out of turn number 9. Can Bannister hold on down the home straight, Dan?
Well, he's keeping an eye on it. He's in the slipstream. He's not close enough to make a move. That's the critical thing at the moment, is he's nowhere near close enough to really make a decisive move. He's working his way through the left, through the right, turns 2 and 3, really swinging the bike over from left to right. It requires a lot of physical effort in order to move the bikes about, but running very deep. Josh Bannister is using all of the available road in order to maximise the speed out of the corners. Into turn 5, the right-handed hairpin. He goes deep on the curb as well. You don't want to run over that too much. It's a bit slippery and also extremely bumpy, but side by side, Kyle Payne using a tighter line to much greater effect into the penultimate corner for the penultimate time. We're about to start the final lap of this race. Over the line, the number 2 rider of Josh Bannister in the plum seat, leading into the first corner for the final time.
Bannister's just holding it for the moment, takes a defensive line. Kyle Payne knows that Bannister's going defensive, so he can try and place the bike further around the outside to try and get a run through this tight and twisty section through the midfield. Can Kyle Payne do anything about Bannister? Bannister's going to go defensive into the tight turn left. Look at Payne, he's going round the outside. Will he get a run through the corner? Not quite. Bannister's nearly running off the circuit. He's taking such a defensive line going into the corner. He's running wide, coming out of it. This is very left, right through the section. But look at Payne, he's got a great run through the corner, not doing it quite yet. This is the last moment he can overtake, but Bannister has done an absolute perfect job of this race situation at the moment. Bannister through the final turn, comes across the line. Bannister's going to win the mini GP50 race from race number 3 here at Tattershall, just ahead of Kyle Payne on bike number 25. In third spot is Brown, ahead of Crosby, who managed to restart this race after crashing in the first part of it. So what a great ride there from Josh Bannister. Has picked up a hat-trick of wins this weekend here from Tattershall, and of course with Crosby crashing out of the race but remounting, that has just closed the championship considerably. And as we've got the last few riders coming through the final corner here, looking further down the orders of Carter Brown and Ben Jolliffe. Who's it going to be? It's Carter Brown on bike 37, holding 8th spot ahead of Ben Jolliffe. Ollie Horner in 10th and Taylor Stewart Campbell in 11th. So Josh Bannister is your race winner for race number 3. Kyle Payne in 2nd. Lucas Brown rounding at the podium spot. Ryan Hitchcock next up. Ronnie Harris, Harrison McKay, Harrison Crosby, who remounted after the crash, came back on in 14th, finishing 7th. So great damage limitation there from Harrison Crosby. Carter Brown in 8th, Ben Jolliffe 9th, Ollie Horner 10th, Taylor Stewart Campbell 11th, and Holly Harrison 12th.
So highlights of that third and final mini GP50 race of the weekend. Late move by the likes of Josh Bannister, Harrison Crosby well up there at the front. Restart race up the inside was the number 25 of Kyle Payne, making a great start. Everyone through cleanly at turn 1, what we like to see. Ryan Hitchcock didn't have that problem on the first lap this time like he did last time, but attacking right through the race. Josh Bannister and Kyle Payne. Kyle Payne led for a very long time aboard the number 25 machine. Number 2 was in second place, and in third it was Harrison Crosby before dropping it on the exit of turn 1. It then became a 2-horse race for the lead. In further down the order, fighting away, Ollie Horner and Taylor Stewart Campbell side by side for the race lead. A bit of a mistake maybe from Kyle Payne. Up the inside, Josh Bannister was going. Plenty of riders in this race enjoying their racing here at FAB-Racing, side by side for the lead, and that was the move, which meant Josh Bannister went right around the outside, the left-hand side of the circuit, took the win then, and that's it for Mini GP 50s. We'll see them again very soon at Lid in a few weeks' time. Please join us in round 5 of the championship, but you're listening to live coverage of round 4 of the 2019 FAB-Racing British Mini Bike Championships. And as the riders head out onto circuit, now the Extreme 200s are out as they make their way onto the grid. There's quite a large entry for this next one, so we'll be bringing you all of this. We believe that Brad may be in this. Brad Ray, the number 28 rider, Bennett's British Superbike race winner. He was racing in 2 of the races this weekend. He did come over earlier and wasn't in his race gear, and considering he was out in this race, it did seem like perhaps he wasn't going to be racing in this one. But we got a someone waving up to the timing box, wondering why.
I think I know why that might be. It's because Max Cook's mate, Charlie Nesbitt, went upstairs. So Charlie Nesbitt, I don't think is going to be in this race either, because he was literally ran past us 2 minutes ago without his race gear on. So I don't think he's taking part in this race. And Max Cook is going, "Where are you, mate?" What are you doing?
No Charlie Nesbitt, no Brad Ray. I don't think there's any Tom Ward either. So there's quite a few gaps on the grid. So it's very much a half grid at the moment. We'll get more information as and when we can. There we go. Charlie Nesbitt giving a good old cheer to Max Cook. They are onto the green flag lap though. I know this is a bit of a pain, but just tell us the grid as it is on the timing screens, and then we will go through it in more detail in a moment.
Yeah, so Richard Holmes Williams will be leading off from pole position once again today on bike 126, ahead of what should be Max Cook, but Max Cook has been starting from last on the grid with his mate Charlie Nesbitt, so Max Cook will be doing the same again. Martin Glossop will be in third position on the grid. Brad Ray doesn't look like he's taking the start, so he'll be missing from the grid. Kier Armstrong will be in fifth position on row number 3 on bike 122, ahead of Taylor Lawrence on bike number 10, who had a bit of an off earlier on today, in 6th spot. Will Howarth on bike number 96 will be in 7th on the grid, ahead of John Ansell, who picked up a podium position earlier on today in race number 2. He'll be in bike 685. Josh Ingram will be on 9th on the grid on bike 147, ahead of Brandon Pearl on bike 146, rounding at the top 10 on the grid, ahead of Harvey Claridge on bike 16. He'll be 11th, ahead of Cam Harris in 12th spot on bike number 20. Jamie King on bike number 76 will be in 13th. Tom Ward next up in 14th spot on bike number 21. Charlie Nesbitt should be back on row number 8, but he's not in his race gear at the moment. He's watching from the sidelines, cheering on his mate Max Cook. And in 16th place will be Roger Monks on bike 111.
That's how they're meant to line up. It seems like there's half the grid missing at this point, but whichever riders are here, we will cover them. They look to the green flag. The green flag goes up, it goes down now, so a good start from the number 6 rider, Martin Glossop. Really well in his race earlier on, has gone into turn 1 for the first time and leads coming out to turn 1. Number 10, Taylor Lawrence, also doing well. Second place at the moment, third and fourth. Not too bad. Brandon Perrell's getting stuck in with Cam Harris a little further down the order into turns 3 and 4 for the first time. So a good start by everyone. Jamie King a bit further back than he's been expected to be this weekend. He does enjoy the Tattershall circuit, but overtaking and going round the outside of a few riders, giving it a good go. Max Cook, though, also making a decent start for the back of the grid. Made up a couple of positions as they make their way through on this first lap. About to start lap 2, so we've got 14 laps in this race, or 13 laps to go. Martin Glossop ahead of Taylor Lawrence. Third place is the not quite sure, can't see who is at the moment, but making their way through. Will Howarth making a good start as well.
Yes, Will Howarth has been putting in some fantastic performances this weekend on that bike there. So we've got a great start from Max Cook. He's made up about 4 positions so far on that opening lap. So he started last, he's moved up a few positions since then. And we've got the likes of Martin Glossop, who was chasing Brad Ray very early on in the race number 2, which happened this morning. He's leading the way ahead of Taylor Lawrence. So Taylor Lawrence on bike number 10. But as we look towards the head of the field, it's Martin Glossop heading through turn number 10, the final turn on this Tattershall racecourse, and he's got a bit of a gap ahead of Taylor Lawrence. That's about a second and a half, 1.2 seconds in actual fact, as Martin Glossop sets the fastest lap of the race, a 45.4. Further down the field, there's a lot of action. Brandon Perrell on the back of Josh Ingram, looking for our way past the rider in 5th position. Cam Harris just holding off Max Cook for the moment, but Max Cook will be eagerly trying to get his way past the rider in front of Cam Harris.
Max Cook, as you say, he's going to be eager to get to the very front of the field now that most of his quotation marks he might consider his serious competition mates aren't in this race. It's down to him to perform, but Martin Glossop doing very well at the front of the field so far. Up the inside goes Max Cook on Brandon Perrell, immediately gets overtaken. That's into turn 9, so goes in a bit deep, opens the position, loses the position again, side by side into turn 1 though. He's got the inside line, he has got the position now, a bit of a squirrel from the rear brake, so he was really leaning on the rear tyre for traction. Got it through though. Martin Glossop is 1.1 seconds ahead of Taylor Lawrence though, with the fastest lap. Kier Armstrong remains in 3rd ahead of Will Howarth. Then Josh Ingram is really the closest rider to Will Howarth, followed by Brandon Perrell and Max Cook, the battle we're currently talking about. They make their way through turn number 7, the 3rd of the hairpins. It's an extremely tight part of the circuit, a real push from the torque on these pit bike engines. Up the inside, having a look, and the number 27 rider is Max Cook. So Josh Ingram is next on Max's list of riders to overtake. They go side by side. He's got the inside line into turn 1, and once again he completes a move by the braking zone, although he was sliding all over the shop when he was making the move into turn 1, Liam.
Yes, you can tell that Max Cook has been racing out in Spain. That's the sort of move you'll see at international level, getting in front of the other rider and just chopping their nose off as they come into the corner. Great ride there from Max Cook on bike 213, so that's bike 213 for Max Cook, with the Red Bull Rookies leathers on, so he's very distinguishable on the race circuit at the moment. So he's closing up to the back of Will Howarth, so that's Max Cook in 5th spot. Can Cook make a move on Howarth? So he's closed right into the back of him already, coming through the fast turn 10, final right-hander on this track. Will he make a move into turn 1? I think he's a little bit too far back, but late on the brakes to go, backing it in sideways there. He's leaving a lot of black lines out there on the circuit. So Max Cook through turn number 2 into 3. Will Howarth is going to be having the young Red Bull rookie star all over the back of him ever so slightly. So Max Cook, you will be able to play as him in the new MotoGP 19 game, so I thought I'd just throw that out there. So you can play as him as a Red Bull rookie star in that game as well, so he'll be loving to play as himself in that. But Max Cook in 5th spot, all over the back of Will Howarth there. So Will Howarth is doing a great job of soaking up the pressure from the youngster.
Well, soaking up the pressure, he's not going to resist for too much longer though. Max, if he can make a move, he will make a move. He's got a great run out of the final turn, having a cheeky look at the inside at turn 1. He's closing, he can't do it though. Will Howarth, the number 96 rider, has just got the legs on him, and it's enough in order to continue to remain in 4th place for now. Martin Glossop though, 1.5 seconds ahead of Taylor Lawrence, is just making a headway away at the moment. Kier Armstrong remains in 3rd. 4th place for Will Howarth, as we've just been mentioning. They're making their way through the infield now. Turn number 7, the 3rd of the hairpins, very tight. Behind those two as well, Josh Ingram is getting a hard time from Cam Harris and Brandon Perrell. Their 3 bikes almost line astern into turn number 9. And the Red Bull Rookies rider of Max Cook still consolidating a good 5th place for him at the moment. He's fallen back away a bit from Will Howarth. Maybe he's just trying to give himself a bit of a breather. It is quite interesting. 8 laps to go, so we're nearing half distance in this race. It was side by side for Josh Ingram though. Ingram remains in the 6th ahead of Harris and Perrell. but Harris really challenging for 6th place.
Yeah, I noticed something hanging off the bottom of Max Cook's bike there. Not quite sure what that is as he came past the commentary box and he's went into turn number 1. Not sure if something's hanging off or that's meant to be there, but we'll keep an eye on that to see if he drops back from Will Howarth over the next few laps. But we're looking further down the field, and Josh Ingram, Cam Harris and Brandon Pearl are giving us an almighty scrap out there on this tight and twisty Tattershall course, and of course it is Josh Ingram who still leads away from Cam Harris for 6th, 7th and 8th position at the moment. It looks like Cam Harris nearly lost the front for turn number 9 as he power of the corner. Brandon Pearl will be looking to make amends for that issue there from Cam Harris. Wheeling as it came across the line was Josh Ingram into turn number 1. Cam Harris all over the back of the number 147 rider in front as they go through turn 10. Will he make a move into turn number 4, setting it up, not quite finding a way through just at the moment, Dan?
He's still got to wait a little while. He's into the infield section and under increasing pressure from Brandon Peril. The yellow Peril, number 146, makes their way into turn 5, much deeper for the black bike with yellow highlights on the 146, trying to get a better traction around, because you don't want to be sitting right behind someone, not being able to breathe, not being able to really close in. Martin Glossop, leader of this race, halfway through this race. Taylor Lawrence in 2nd and Kier Armstrong still 3rd. The battle for the 6th, 7th and 8th still raging on. Josh Ingram holding on, 147 ahead of Cam Harris and Brandon Peril.
Cam Harris made a bit of an issue there as he came through turn number 10, lost the rear end. Brandon Pearl up there instead of Harris. Has to set the bike up as Cam Harris didn't know he was there. That was very close to an incident between both of them. Harris and Pearl nearly went down together at turn number 3. So Cam Harris, as he didn't know that Brandon Pearl was there, won't be fazed by it whatsoever, but he might be a little bit fazed by the issue that he had about a lap ago when he lost the rear end coming through turn number 10. So the battle for 6th, 7th and 8th still rages on between these three that you've got on screen at the moment. To turn number 10 again, will Cam Harris keep in line? Yes, he does. He gets a great run through the final turn, deep on the brakes into turn 1. We've got Ingram that blocks the line ever so slightly. Harris has to remain in 7th, but further down the field we've got a great battle between the likes of Jamie King, Harvey Clarge and Ian Jackson for 9th, 10th and 11th as they come out of turn number 1 into 2. We've got Harvey Clarge all over the back of his rival from the Pit Big 140 category.
Yes, absolutely. He's really fighting him tooth and nail. Many of our riders use similar bikes, if not the same bikes, for both categories. Engine size really is the only limitation. Martin Glossop, though, no problem with my engine size or any kind of limitations. 4 laps to go and he's 2.4 seconds ahead of Taylor Lawrence now. Lawrence coming under pressure from Kier Armstrong, so coming through turns 2 and 3, they are focusing hard on the battle for 2nd place. We're also focusing hard on the battle for 6th place, making their way into turns 2 and 3 now, left and right. Very long sweeping corner. Cam Harris uses a much wider line into turn 3. The leaders, though, come out of turn number 7 up towards turn 9. That's the joining the fast bit of the circuit, and they're going to be coming over the line to start. 3 laps to go, so the race is proceeding in a pretty quick pace at the moment, and Taylor Lawrence under increasing pressure from Kier Armstrong. Armstrong slowly being caught up by Will Howarth as well. So Will Howarth, I think, the fastest person on the circuit at the moment with a 45.5. Matt Cook not too far away as well. So we can all come up to a head, but up side by side again into turn number 1. The battle for 6th place is still absolutely nose to tail. Josh Ingram holding off Cam Harris, who then drops it. He goes down at turn number 1. He loses the grip on the bike. He is back onto it, so he's all right. There was a little puff of smoke, but Cam Harris, a lapse in concentration, has lost a few positions.
Now there's a battle for 2nd position at the moment. It looks like Kier Armstrong on bike 122 has closed up to the back of Taylor Lawrence in the closing stages of this race. To come across the line, 2 laps to go of this Extreme 200 race number 3, and Kier Armstrong is all over the back of Lawrence, and Will Howarth has closed up to the back of both of them as well. He's dropped Max Cook. Max Cook is a couple of seconds behind Howarth, but look how close it is now as they come into turn at number 4. Can Armstrong make a move on Lawrence? He had a bit of a moment coming out of turn 4, looking up the inside, pushes him out wide. That is Armstrong up into 2nd spot. Lawrence had to get out of it as it looked like Armstrong might have lost the front if he didn't move out of the way. And Howarth as well. Has Lawrence got an issue with his bike? Howarth has just ridden round the outside of Lawrence. He's dropped from 2nd to 4th in a number of corners.
That was at turn number 7, so he's really struggling with traction at the moment. Is Taylor Lawrence. Perhaps the tyres just giving up the ghost, but we've got 1 lap to go. Martin Glossop is the race leader. Kier Armstrong now into second place ahead of Will Howarth. Taylor Lawrence, so, is coming back up the inside of Will Howarth, back into third place. He doesn't want to take it lying down. He wants that final step on the podium, but the number 6 rider, Martin Glossop, into the turn number 4 now. The battle for second place making their way into turn number 4 now. Kier Armstrong has gapped it, but Taylor Lawrence is defending hard from Will Howarth.
He's defending ever so hard, as you say there, Dan. Taylor Lawrence is still holding it for the moment. We're watching our race leader now coming through turn number 9, but it looks like Howarth has had a moment coming out of 7. He's had a moment, but look who it's going to be. It's going to be Martin Glossop coming across the start-finish line to take the race number 3 win of the Extreme 200s ahead of Kier Armstrong. Taylor Lawrence just holds off Will Howarth for 3rd and 4th position. Max Hook comes across the line, pops a big wheelie, and he's in 5th place there. Josh Ingram should hold off Brandon Pearl, as we see Brandon Pearl in 7th spot here on screen, so he's a number of bike lengths further behind Josh Ingram. Ingram across the line in 6th, Brandon Pearl in 7th. Cam Harris we expect to come across the line now, recovering well after he dropped the bike a couple of laps ago coming out of turn number 1, so he holds 8th off ahead of Ian Jackson. It looks like Jamie King in 10th and Harvey Clarge, the last rider to come across the line, in 11th spot. So Martin Glossop there taking his first race win of the weekend ahead of Kier Armstrong, and Taylor Lawrence round out the podium. Will Howarth was next up, who held off an advancing Max Cook. Josh Ingram in 6th spot ahead of Brandon Pearl. The 147 leads home at the 146. Cam Harris next up, Ian Jackson 9th, Jamie King in 10th, and Harvey Clouds in 11th.
So that was your order for the 3rd and final race of the weekend for the Extreme 200s. Let's catch the highlights of that race. It was very action-packed, starting with the start. A good start for Martin Glossop. That was really the time when he made his mark. He just knew he could ride off into the distance. Taylor Lawrence, though, was in second place for quite a long time. A good fight between Harvey Cloudge, Max Cook, Jamie King. They were fighting for a lap or so. For Max Cook, making lots of progress, lots of tyre marks as well, as he danced the bike all around the circuit, ensuring he had the best opportunity. Great overtake after great overtake, showing why he's such a talented young rider, racing in the Red Bull Rookies and using his Red Bull Rookies overalls. Came up against Will Howarth. They fought for a bit, and then Will Howarth got the bit between his teeth, carried on racing. The battle for second raged on. This is also the battle for 6th place. Cam Harris with Josh Ingram and Brandon Pearl, lap after lap after lap. They were going side by side, fighting as hard as they could, and then a bit of a mistake from Cam Harris right near the end of the race. Put a little bit too much power down, spins the bike from under him. He gets the bike. So as they make their way up it now, it was side by side also for the second place battle. Will Howarth getting past Kier Armstrong into second. Will Howarth got up to 3rd. Taylor Lawrence repassing into 3rd place, but Martin Glossop, the winner of the 3rd and final Extreme 200 race of the weekend.
So it's going to be the mini F1 sidecars race number 3 coming up now, and of course we've got the 8 riders, so there's going to be no green flag lap from the sidecars. So starting off from pole position on this grid will be your championship leader by 35 points, Mick Williams, who is 35 ahead of second place Jack Qualters, who will be second on the grid. Mick Lee will be 3rd on the grid on sidecar number 44 ahead of Paul Qualters Jr. in 4th spot. Mark Parker will be next up in 5th, ahead of the 46 of Simon Ibbotson. John Hoska will be lining up on row number 4 on bike 127, ahead of Russell Morgan.
So the riders and passengers are getting ready for the race start. There is no green flag lap. It will be straight into the racing action. 6 laps then to decide the final winner of the weekend. We look towards the green flag. The green flag goes up, it goes down. A good start from Mick Williams on pole position. Second place, squeezing into second place, is Jack Qualters. Mick Lee is 3rd. He's going side by side, but no, he remains in 3rd place for now. Is he going to stay off the grass? And like he did in race 2 earlier, he does. So Jack Qualters keeping pace with Mick Williams for now. They're 1 and 2. 3rd place for Mick Lee. 4th place for 147. It's getting quite close through the midfield. The likes of Mark Parker and John Hoska getting very close between the pair of them. Paul Qualters Jr. made a good start as well. they all continue to go around. Russ Morgan also in 8th place, circulating around. So all of the sidecars circulating around so far. But over the line now to finish lap 1 and start lap 2, it is confirmed that Mick Williams is your leader in this race, ahead of the number 2 of Jack Quarters. Mick Lee in 3rd, 4th for Paul Quarters Jr., 5th place for Mark Parker, followed very quickly by Simon Ibbotson, John Hosker and Ross Morgan, currently rounding at the top 8 riders. Getting more, but it's turning out to be a pretty interesting race already, because Jack Quarters is keeping tabs with Mark.
It looks like Mick Williams is just easing away ever so slightly from Jack Quarters. Mick Lee has Paul Quarters Jr. all over the back of him at the moment, so Mark Parker as well staying in that battle for the time being. So Mick Lee struggling at the moment as we see them powering out of turn number 9, across the curb there for Paul Quarters Jr. So as we said that Mick Lee looked like he was struggling, it looks like he's pulled a bit of a gap over Paul Quarters Jr. at the start of this next lap, but the gap at the front is 1.3 seconds. It's a 52.282 from Mick Williams. That's only a 10th and a half quicker than Jack Quarters the previous lap. Mick Lee is a further 3 seconds off of Jack Quarters. Paul Quarters Jr. in 4th spot, Mark Parker in 5th, John Hosker 6th on bike 127. Simon Ibbotson has dropped a couple of places from his starting spot. He's now 7th, ahead of Russell Morgan there. So it looks like Paul Quarters Jr. is beginning to just ease back up to the back of Mick Lee.
And Mick Lee has been involved in some fairly tough scraps this weekend, so they're well versed in knowing how to defend. The number 44 machine has been performing excellently around the Lincolnshire circuit of Tattershall this weekend. Really had some good results. Mick Williams with a new fastest lap over the line, although the number 44, as he comes past, is still in 3rd place. It sounds like they're struggling to grab a gear when they're coming into the accelerative zone, so that might explain perhaps a little lack of pace. A bit of understeer from the 44, that means the 24 Paul Quarters Jr. is closing up exponentially through turns 2 and 3. It's a long winding section for these sidecars. The passengers have really got to throw themselves about, and into the first hairpin Paul Quarters Jr. is closing in.
Yes, indeed, and we're going to have to listen out for Mick Lee's sidecar as it come past start finish line once again, because it did sound very sick as it came past, so maybe it's an ongoing issue with that number 44 sidecar. But looking at the battle for first, it was another new lap record from Mick Williams of 51.7 in the previous lap as it come across start finish line. This time round it dropped back a couple of tenths of a second, but still the gap increases to 2.5 seconds. Mick Lee and Jack Quarters come across start finish line. There is an issue which seems to be with Mick Lee once again. It sounds like they're struggling for gear, so this could be an issue that could be ongoing over the next 3 laps of this mini sidecar race. So can Mick Lee get their head round the issue that's going on with that sidecar, or will the sidecar break down and Jack Quarters or Paul Quarters Jr. in fact pick up that podium position?
They are circulating though, and that is the good news. They're really getting closed up in on though the number 44 machine. They are just having to very patiently work around whatever they're dealing with. Whilst it's a very deep, throaty sound like normal, it does sound like it's got, as you mentioned, some kind of pickup issue. So we'll have to wait and understand to see what the problem could well be. Mick Williams, no such problems. 2 laps to go, well out in front, 2.8 seconds ahead of Jack Quarters. Jack Quarters having a very good weekend. Over the line, the number 44 and Mick Lee's got a decent gap. It's about a second over Paul Quarters Jr., so it's not closing in so much at the moment. But Mark Parker in 5th, John Hosker still in 6th ahead of Simon Ibbotson, and Russ Morgan just about to have a lap put on him by our race leader, the number 44 of Mick Williams, ever present, ever winning aboard the number 26 machine. He is a very talented rider, and of course with the passenger, and they're enjoying some good results as of late. They've not had a particularly large amount of good luck this weekend though, so this hopefully should redeem themselves a little bit.
Absolutely, it should redeem themselves. But it looks like Mick Lee has a big gap coming onto the home straight, but coming across start finish line with the issue with the bike, Paul Quarters Jr. can just speed down the home straight and catch back up again. So as they come through the final turn, we'll keep an eye out on Paul Quarters Jr. is a lot closer this time round as a lap Russell Morgan as Paul Quarters Jr. into 3rd spot, past Mick Lee into turn number 1 as they were lapping Russ Morgan there putting a lap on the last place rider. So that is Paul Coulters Jr. up into third spot, but will Mick Lee retaliate? He's trying to go around the outside into turn number 3 and 4. And in the final lap, it looks like Mick Williams will be picking up his second win of the weekend, his 10th win of the season. It's still a great battle going on between Paul Coulters Jr. and Mick Lee for the final podium spot. We'll keep an eye on that. A bit of a shake of the head from the sidecar of the 26, Mick Williams, but he comes across the start-finish line through the fast right-hander, over the line, and it's Mick Williams once again picking up another race win to extend his championship lead to 40 points over Jack Coulters. And will Paul Coulters Jr., it looks like Paul Coulters Jr. has pulled off at the edge of the circuit through turn number 7, so it means Mick Lee will pick up third spot. Not quite sure what happened there. Mick Lee takes third on an ailing 44 machine. Paul Coulters Jr., horrible luck for the number 24 there. Over the start finish line, Mark Parker will inherit fourth position ahead of John Hosker, who we're still waiting on to come round, coming through the final couple of corners at the moment. So John Hosker will pick up sixth position ahead of Paul Coulters Jr., Simon Ibbotson in 7th, and Ross Morgan rounding out the top 8.
So a good result there for all of our riders. It's a shame for the number 24, but the highlights of that race, short and sweet. But as we got underway on the first lap, it was a good start by the number 26 machine, getting into the lead. The number 2, Jack Coulters, following suit, was quite close for a few laps, but then sort of lost a little bit of pace. The number 44, Mick Lee, started out well, but gear selection troubles, we suspect, had slowed its pace dramatically. The number 24 of Paul Coulters Jr. also feeling pretty close, having a few looks up the inside into turn number 1, but then it took a move later on in the race. Mick Williams having no such trouble as they made their way through, but a great run out of the final corner and a great straight line speed when the 24 did get ahead of Mick Lee, temporarily putting the number 44 off the podium. Mick Williams came round to take the victory, but heartbreak on the last lap for the number 24 machine, which then pulled off with a technical issue there. Just recovering that bike now, so as they're making their way back to the paddock now. Problem for the number 20 out of the race on the very and well, that's it for the mini F1 sidecars. They'll be back in just a few weeks' time. But thank you for joining us. This is Cool Fab Racing. This is the 2019 Championship Round 4 at Tattershall in Lincolnshire. We are on the road to MotoGP and the official partner series to the Bennett's British Superbike Championship. Plenty of great affiliations from many of our young riders, including coming out next, which will be the AC40 rookies, and well, they'll certainly be aspiring to go on to great success, as of the likes of Danny Kent and Brad Ray and Luke Mossy and many other riders who've come through the Cool Fab Racing paddock.
Absolutely, indeed. It's great to see some of these riders in the paddock this weekend taking part in some of the bigger categories. So it's great to inspire the young talent coming through from the likes of the AC40 rookies, the AC40 pros, and give them something to look up to further ahead. So the AC40 rookies will be going out next, and some of the riders are as young as 6 years old out there, so they're putting in a great effort. Some fantastic talent out there for the AC40 rookies, so can't wait to see how race number 3 will go.
Well, race number 3 due to get underway, but highlights of earlier's race today. There was a few incidents in the race. A good start though by the number 3 Bunny car, and as they make their way round the circuit, a few riders falling off early on in the race, having a few incidents. That was our race leader, winner of race 1, falling off on the first start, but making their way up towards the first few corners. There was a big incident in the first start of the second race, and as they continued on throughout the course of the race, some great battling, great scraps with many of our young riders really learning their racecraft, make a move up the inside, then lose it almost immediately. But you've got to make that kind of thing to do it, and in the long run that's the kind of thing that would work. But here's the crash, a big crash for our rider earlier, was confirmed to be okay, so all was well. Great thanks to the and the marshals help on the matter. But second race, another good start by Archie Gibbs, and got one he wouldn't really lose. So Luke Fitchard having some great scraps over the course of the race. Another rider that fell turn number 1. Luke Fitchett having a good race over the course of that. Fighting further back, many riders really using the cutback, using all sorts of alternative lines in order to get to the grid. And as they make their way over the lines, once again, lots of overtaking still happening. They're really teaching themselves, working very hard with each other in order to improve their racecraft, really having a good performance for the great crowds here. Many families, many fans actually here. Excited it is, of course, free to racing here at Cool Fab. Thank you for joining us. This is live coverage of round 4. And we'll get on the way for the third and final race at the AC40 Rookies in just a few moments' time. But it is Liam with the grid.
Yes, you can see the riders lining up for their final race of the day, and it's going to be led away by your new championship leader, Archie Gibbs. He leads the championship now by 6 points over Ollie Sims, who came into this race meeting as the championship leader. Luke Fitchett will be lining up in second spot on the grid on bike number 96. Joshua Williams will be in third spot on bike 78, ahead of bike 108. That is Blake Wilson. Ollie Sims will be next up on bike number 73, fifth spot for Ollie Sims. Brandon Keane on bike 333, then distinguishable bike number 333 of Brandon Keane, ahead of Luke Schofield on bike number 64. William Harris on bike number 10 will be in 8th spot, ahead of Marco Holt on bike 58. On the 5th row of the grid, Casey Spady in 10th place on bike number 20, ahead of Archie O'Brien on bike number 91 in 11th spot. Wilson Dilks will be on bike 85 and 12th spot on the grid. Row number 7 is going to be Jacob Stevenson, number 67 on bike 13. Harry Payne in 11th spot on bike number 11 and 14th spot. On row number 8 is going to be Thorley Trevorrow on bike 42 and 15th. Max Wilson on bike number 33 will be in 16th spot, ahead of Arnie Carr on the bike 83. Bailey Lawrence on bike number 9 and 18th place on the grid. Callum Maxwell will be next up on 19th place on the grid on bike 111, heading off row number 10, ahead of Roman Ratcliffe on bike 121. In 20th, Chloe Sill, bike 101 on the 11th row of the grid. In 21st, and running out the runners and riders for the start of the AC40 Rookies will be bike 46 of Izzy Carter. So, as the riders are revving their bikes, the revs rise. The marshal with the green flag will be stepping off to the edge of the circuit. Remember, it's the green flag as it goes down. The race will begin. Archie Gibbs will be looking down for a good start. Green flag's down. Archie Gibbs from pole position. Great start away. Blake Wilson trying to get into second spot, but tries to drop back into third position there as the other runners and riders. Luke Fitchett drops back ever so slightly. Archie Gibbs still leads away as he head in towards turns 3 and 4, and we've got Luke Fitchett dropping back ever so slightly from the rear of the grid. A couple of riders barging away at the way. We've got a blue bike down further down the field at turn number 4. The rider is up and okay and back on the bike, looking to get back into the race, so that's good that the rider is up and trying to get back into the race, which should have done so now. But Archie Gibbs looks like he's made a great start at the top of the field, pulling out a big advantage of over a second as they make their way into turns number 8 and 9, and it looks like we have the likes of Blake Wilson trying to make a move. We've got Brandon Keane there on bike 333 still holding position in 5th spot as they make their way around to start the next lap.
Well, on to the next lap. A great start, and as you mentioned, a second in under a lap is not a difficult, it's not an easy thing to do. You've got to really work hard in order to get that kind of thing. But the battle for second place closing in. Archie Gibbs is ahead of Joshua Williams, Blake Wilson and Ollie Sims there and thereabouts, with Luke Fitchett also quite close by. They've been enjoying some great scraps over the last 2 races. This is seeming to be more of the same, but the likes of Blake Wilson really need to get their heads down and get some good points in the bag. They don't want to lose too many opportunities to score some good points, and now that Archie Gibbs is well off into the distance, it seems at this point, it was 1.4 seconds over the line. That's a lot to try and claw back in the space of 8 laps.
Archie Gibbs has become very accustomed to this racecourse as we've had a change for 4th position. Luke Fitchett, after a bad start, has made his way past the former championship leader Ollie Sims to turn number 9. A very audacious move, but we've got a change for second spot. We've got Blake Wilson looking up the inside of Joshua Williams. Not quite yet, but Ollie Sims back into 4th, runs a little bit deep. We're nearly, it looked like Luke Fitchett may actually attack the back of Ollie Sims, but thankfully all riders are through turn number 1 very cleanly and very safely. But at the front of the field, it's Archie Gibbs, who was 1.1 seconds quicker on that previous lap than the riders behind. as they come through the tight and twisty section of the track. Luke Fitchett up the inside of Ollie Sims again. Yes, he's done it. He's back through into 4th spot. He's looking fast. He's looking like he's meaning business. And Ollie Sims has been demoted. Will he make a move into turn number 7? Not quite yet. He's looking up the inside of Blake Wilson.
Luke Fitchett, though, has really struggled with his race starts over the last 3 races, and for the first lap or so, he struggles to really get into it, but then making another move up the inside into 3rd place. There you go, is what we're saying. Once he gets into his rhythm, he's as quick as anyone else out there. Archie Gibbs, 3.2 seconds up the road. Joshua Williams second. 3rd is Luke Fitchett, but you fear for not much longer. Around the outside, Ollie Sims is. Blake Wilson fighting very hard indeed. Ollie Sims, though, stays in 5th place for now. Blake Wilson has got the pace, has got the racecraft in order to keep on a position. But Luke Fitchett again up the inside, makes the move done and through on Joshua Williams. Bouncing over the curbing was Ollie Sims as well, so a few riders pushing quite hard.
I can tell you from experience you don't want to be riding a mini moto over curbs, especially on a go-kart track that can be very bumpy and very big at the same time. But Luke Fitchett, after a poor start, has worked his way back up into 2nd spot in the race, so looking very good there from the number 96 rider. Ollie Sims looking fast but a little bit out of control in some parts of the circuit at the moment. Through the fast turn number 10 across the start finish line to complete another lap. Fitchett ahead of Joshua Williams, ahead of Blake Wilson, ahead of Sims, but it's Archie Gibbs is still leading the way, and he's over half a second quicker than the pursuing rider, so he's got a big gap of 4.4 seconds. He's already trying to lap some other riders there, so Archie Gibbs with a big lead and extending his championship lead in this AC40 Rookies Championship at the moment. Luke Fitchett has pulled a bit of a gap over the likes of Joshua Williams, Blake Wilson and Ollie Sims, so the gap is opening up there for 2nd, 3rd and 4th.
But they're starting to encounter a few of the riders in this race, which will close them back up again. Archie Gibbs has caught them effectively at the right point by being able to go through between the different hairpins. However, as Luke Fitchett isn't quite as adept at maybe getting through, because they've caught them at not quite the most effective time. Over the line again, Archie Gibbs is now 4.0 seconds ahead of Luke Fitchett with half the race gone and half the race to go. Joshua Williams is 3rd ahead of Blake Wilson. Ollie Sims is in 5th. Brandon Keane and Luke Schofield, they've been fighting tooth and nail again, so they make their way down towards turn number 1. In fact, it's Luke Schofield ahead of Brandon Keane. William Harris, Casey Sperry and Harry Payne's the top 10, with Archie O'Brien, Wilson Dilks, Jacob Stevenson, Marco Holt and Arnie Carr running in the top 15 so far. But Archie Gibbs is getting away with it. Luke Fitchett has got to defend from Joshua Williams. They're all quite enjoying a very close battle at the moment. Into turn number 7 and just about getting round some of the other riders in this race. Nearly tripped over the back of them, which you do not want to be doing at this point in the race. Into turn 9 and out of turn 9 again. Ollie Sims is actually starting to close in as well on Blake Wilson. Blake Wilson is in the main pack. They're all following 4 in a row, with Fitchett, Williams, Wilson and Sims up the inside. Luke Fitchett trying to defend from Joshua Williams, who got a great run down the back straight, really using the slipstream to good effect. And in fact, they've really drawn all 4 back together once more.
They have done indeed. It looks like Luke Schofield is making a bit of a move, or Brandon Keane is making a bit of a move on Luke Schofield a little bit further down the order there. So there's a great battle going on between Keane, Sperry, Schofield, William Harris and Harry Payne. They're giving us a fantastic battle for 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th further down the field. But back with the battle for 2nd, Luke Fitchett had a bit of an issue with the back markers a bit of a lap ago, so he dropped back into the pursuing pack. But now that he's back ahead, Joshua Williams is still trying to hold off Blake Wilson as there's more back markers are making their way through. So through turn 10, Ollie Sims looks like he's getting held up by the back markers more so than the 2 riders in front of him. Across the start finish line, will we see a move for the final podium position? Not yet. Joshua Williams still holds it ahead of Blake Wilson. Ollie Sims is very quick through turn at number 1. He seems to take a wider line into the corner, while everyone else seems to sit more in the middle of the circuit, maybe getting affected more by the bumps compared to Ollie Sims.
But it's trying to figure out how you can do that going into it. But at the inside is Brandon Keane. 2 laps to go. Brandon Keane working hard with Luke Schofield and Casey Sperry into turn number 1. They've been fighting hard all the way through this race. But Archie Gibbs with the number 3 rider. Not too long until he starts his final lap of the race, his final lap of the weekend. So he's got to make this one count. He's in the lead to the tune of 2.5 seconds. That gap is coming down quite significantly over the last few laps. Over the line, this is the final lap for Archie Gibbs.
Archie Gibbs is into turn number 1, as you said, Dan. But his time has gone up from 2.5 in the previous lap to 3.2. He's coming through turn number 2 into 3. That's Archie Gibbs, your race leader in the Dayglow yellow wheels and white helmet. But it's still the battle for second that we're keeping a close eye out on. Luke Fitchett, Joshua Williams, Blake Wilson and Ollie Sims, 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th are tailing your race leader with the white helmet and the Dayglow yellow wheels. It looks absolutely brilliant, that bike, your championship leader. And of course your race leader is on course to pick up a hat-trick of wins this weekend here at Tattershall. Round number 4 of the 2019 Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bike Championship. 2 more corners to go. The bike's shaking heavily over the bumps. We've got Archie Gibbs coming through the final corner now. Cross the start-finish line. It's going to be Archie Gibbs, race number 3, 3 wins in a row. That is Archie Gibbs with the AC40 Rookies race win ahead of Luke Fitchett, who holds off Joshua Williams. Blake Wilson can only manage 4th. Ollie Sims, 5th spot, drops further down the championship board with Archie Gibbs taking the race win. But here we go, here's a battle for 6th spot. Who's going to take it? Will it be Keane? Will it be Schofield? Will it be Spady? Spady pushes past across our finish line. Spady takes 6th position. What a ride by the number 20 rider there of Casey Spady. Brandon Keane drops back down to 7th ahead of Luke Schofield on bike number 64. William Harris in 9th and Harry Payne rounds out your top 10 for the AC40 Rookies race number 3. Just outside the top 10 was Archie O'Brien. Marco Holt follows that up in 12th spot ahead of Wilson Dilks, Jacob Stevenson in 14th, Arne Carr and 15th ahead of Bailey Lawrence, Thorley Trevorrow on bike number 42 in 17th, Roman Ratcliffe in 18th spot, Chloe Sewell 19th and Callum Maxwell is your only non-finisher. But I say that Callum Maxwell comes across the line now taking the checkered flag, which is great because we've got 20 runners and riders completing the race. So I've got the highlights of the race. It was a great start by your championship leader Archie Gibbs. Blake Wilson tried to get around Joshua Williams into turn number 1 as all the riders are duking for position into the early stages of this race. We've got Archie Gibbs pulling a big advantage. Number 31 there, so back into the race as Ollie Sims rode round the outside of Luke Fitchett in the early stages of the race, but Luke Fitchett made up a few positions. But look at Ollie Sims, he looked like he tried to go for a tried and tested manoeuvre but didn't quite make it past Blake Wilson. Over the curbs, bounces over the curbs, was your previous championship leader Ollie Sims, as all the riders were close in proximity from 2nd down to 5th position. As he lapped the other riders, it was Ollie Sims who was trying to make a way. Got Brandon Keane up the inside of Casey Spady. A great battle going on between the number 20 and 33, but it was a checkered flag waving for Archie Gibbs, who extends his championship lead over Ollie Sims, as Ollie Sims could only manage 5th place ahead of Luke Fitchett, who was in 2nd, Joshua Williams was in 3rd, Luke Schofield in 4th, and of course it was a lot of others. So Ollie Sims in 5th spot, Blake Wilson in 4th place there. So that was your AC40 Rookies race number 3 for the weekend. They will be back at round number 5, and of course we've got the premier class of the Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bike Championship. It's the Mini GP70s. They're making their way round onto the start of the grid for the start of the green flag lap.
Race 3 at round 4 of the 2019 Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bike Championships. The Mini GP70s are heading to the grid ahead of their 3rd and final race of the weekend. It's a very strong entry. We've had 2 fantastic races so far, and whilst the conditions are cooler, the winds are higher, the tension couldn't be much higher either. The revs are rising. We're getting ready for the race start as the grid starting to assemble ahead of the green flag lap. Thank you for joining us. This is coverage of round 4 of the 2019 Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bike Championships on the road to MotoGP and the official partner series to the Bennett's British Superbike Championship. We're about to get racing here at Tattershall in Lincolnshire. The third race of the fourth round of the championship. We're very much looking forward to it. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for all of your comments over on social media. It's been great to read a few of them. We'll hopefully try and read a few of them out very soon indeed. But the marshal's just making sure everyone is ready to go, that the engines are on, revving correctly, that all the pressures are right. But thumbs up from the back, they head out onto the green flag lap. So for one final time for the Mini GP70s this weekend, it's Liam Hodgins with the grid.
And the stakes are high between Evan Belford and James Cook. There's all 12 points separating them in the championship, with Evan Belford picking up both race wins so far this weekend and leads off pole position ahead of James Cook on bike number 44. Eddie O'Shea picked up third spot in race number 2 earlier on today. He'll be third on the grid. It'll be Owen Mellor next up in fourth ahead of Ollie Walker on bike number 48. Ryan Hitchcock on bike 43 will be next up in sixth spot. On row number 4, leading off row number 4, is Kyle Payne on 25 ahead of Bailey Stewart Campbell starting from 8th spot. Johnny Garness on bike number 57 will be in 9th spot on the grid ahead of Harrison Crosby on bike number 69. Saffron Watley will be on bike 178 on 11th place on the grid ahead of Emmanuel Brinton, making his final appearance on the Mini GP70s before he moves to Spain later on this month. That's Emmanuel Brinton on bike number 93 ahead of Sylvan Mounsey, and 13th Alfie Davidson will be on 14th spot on the grid. Dylan Mellor in 15th on bike number 31 ahead of Joe Farragher. On bike 47, Thomas Gomez heads row number 9 and 17th spot ahead of Carter Brown on bike number 37, and running out the runners and riders is Jamie Woodcock.
So the riders are getting into position, ready for the race start. The riders will look towards the green flag, but it's not when it goes up, it's when it goes down. The revs are rising, the clutches are at biting point for the final time this weekend. The Mini GP70s are go. Good start by Evan Belford, heading into turn 1 as the leader for the first time out of 14 racing laps. James Cook is in second place, Eddie O'Shea in third, fourth place is Bailey Stewart Campbell. A good start by everyone. They're through nice and cleanly at the moment. Defending Owen Mellor is attacking on Eddie O'Shea, so making their way past the rider of Bailey Stewart Campbell. Stewart Campbell down to 5th. Then the number 48 of Ollie Walker also in the mix there. A big grid and many riders getting away, but a good start by Evan Belford, already trying to produce a bit of a gap. A couple of machine links, then it seems to be a very long battle for second place. Over the line for the first time is the number 52 of Evan Belford. James Cook is in second place. Third still Eddie O'Shea, much as we've had over the course of the weekend so far, but that is all subject to change.
We've had a bit of an issue for James Cook. He had a moment coming out of turn number 1. He's now slipped back into third spot. He's now behind the former championship leader Eddie O'Shea. Owen Mellor, still a good start from him there. He's still in fourth spot, just ahead of Stuart Campbell. Nearly contact there between Walker and Garness. That's Garness, who was starting 9th in the grid. He's up to 6th spot at the start of this race. So great start there from Johnny Garness, who nearly wheelied himself off the line at the start of this race. Further down the order, just behind him, is Ryan Hitchcock on bike number 43. But look at Bailey Stewart Campbell all over the back of Mellor through turn 10 across the start finish line. Will we see a change for fourth position? Late on the brakes goes Bailey Stewart Campbell, passes Mellor into turn number 1 as clean as you like. That was very clean there from Bailey Stewart Campbell on the number 99 bike. Can he make any inroads into James Cook just in front of him, who is just behind Eddie O'Shea? So Eddie O'Shea in second. There's a bit of a gap between himself and Evan Belford, who's picked up both race wins so far this weekend, Dan.
Well, both race wins so far. We've got a yellow flag down at turn number 10. That's Ollie Walker, who's pulled off to the side of the circuit. He's up and okay. I believe it's a technical problem with the bike. That's the bike actually being wheeled back if you're tuned into the visual stream. So yellow flags are out at one of the better overtaking opportunities on the circuit. 12 laps to go, 2 laps completed. Belford is ahead of O'Shea. James Cook in third. Fourth place for Bailey Stewart Campbell with the fastest lap. Also got the bit between his teeth as he flows through turns 2 and 3, right up the back of the number 44 rider into turn 3. Turn 4 is the first of our tight hairpins. They're all closing up again though. Eddie O'Shea has a cork in a bottle in second place. James Cook, Bailey Stewart Campbell waiting to be unleashed as they go through the third of the hairpins, the second left-handed hairpin.
James Cook will be starting to hear the Jaws theme tune as Bailey Stewart-Campbell closed right out the back. I say that it looks like he ran a little bit wide there going into turn number 9. Owen Miller looked for an opportunity to make it through but didn't make it stick. So Bailey Stewart-Campbell is very quick but sometimes a little bit inconsistent. As you said, Danny set the fastest lap of the race, nearly a new lap record last time round, but Evan Belford continues to lead this race very commandingly over Eddie O'Shea and James Cook. James Cook looks like he's starting to recover from that incident they had on the second lap. A bit of a moment coming through turn number 1. He's trying to make a way past Eddie O'Shea once again, but look at the person that's in 7th spot, Johnny Garness. Johnny Garness has been showing a lot of form this weekend in the Mini GP 70 category, getting to grips with the bigger bikes, and of course he's on the back of the leading group at the moment.
Well, he's on the back of the leading group, but it's not going to be too long till he's really mixing it in with there. But Eddie O'Shea is in second place. Evan Belford is 1.5 seconds ahead of everybody else. There's no competition about it, but James Cook up the inside into turn 1. Late move on Eddie O'Shea. Couldn't make it work. Almost took the 114 out, but kept it through, kept it clean. Well done, gentlemen. They're almost side by side into turn 3 and 4. Eddie O'Shea, the 114, struggling a little bit at the moment with James Cook bearing down on him. It's such a tight and twisty part of the course. You can feel the breath down your neck really when someone's attacking you, when they're about to pounce. Bailey Stewart-Campbell still with the fastest lap, still lapping fairly quickly as well. Eddie O'Shea really is holding back the tide with a great many riders coming over the line. For context, 52 just over the line now. Then it's 114, 44, 99 all in one row. Side by side between them is Owen Miller and Johnny Garness. Garness right up the inside, deep into the hairpin, but does make the move through. So Johnny Garness up into the top 5 for the first time in this race. And Eddie O'Shea holding up the number 44 once again, looking up the inside, the black machine with the FAB-Racing decals on the side, a red front as well. Can't make it ahead of the 114 in second place for now.
James Cook looks like he's getting a little bit frustrated behind the 114 of Eddie O'Shea as he sees Belford increasing his gap at the top of the race at the moment to 1.4 seconds. And Stuart Campbell, will he look up that A10? Wow, what a decent move.
Does, my
incredible move. Sat Eddie O'Shea up. Bailey Stewart Campbell looks up the inside into turn 1. He does it, so making a move on O'Shea. O'Shea nearly tags the back of Cook. That allows Garnett through into 4th spot there. That is getting a little bit crazy and congested through this course. So calm down, guys. It's just early on in the race. So Bailey Stewart Campbell has made his way through from 4th into 2nd spot, and unfortunately Eddie O'Shea has been pushed back down to 5th, so that looks like it could have been horrendous circumstances for O'Shea, but managed to still stay on the bike.
You mentioned impatience, and well, that was a perfect example of it. Went up the inside when he saw a gap at the very fast turn number 10, nearly sideswiped in. They kept it through, but Bailey Stewart-Campbell, opportunist, really just saw the overtake opportunity. He said, you know what, I might as well, I'm not going to stay here anymore. And Johnny Garnett now with the new fastest lap, 44.850, is in 4th place, bearing down on this battle for 2nd and 3rd. So 99 now in 2nd place ahead of 44, 57 in 4th place. That's Stuart Campbell, Cook and Garnett. Stuart Campbell has got the speed, could make it through, and if anyone could make a challenge on Evan Belford, it would be him. But Evan, 2.3 seconds up the road, halfway through this race, they do need to start really thinking about getting their speed on. Johnny Garnett looking right over the back of the number 44 into turn 10, a very slow tight corner where he could make a move, following through in the slipstream, gets a great run out of the final corner, going to try to duck to rider's left hand side into turn 1. A bit of a wiggle from the number 44, almost lost the front tyre into the corner, but Bailey Stewart Campbell also new fastest lap for him, 44.7. The pace of this race is increasing and the gap to Evan Belford is coming down with 6 laps to go.
These riders are on lap record pace, new fastest lap after new fastest lap, running at lap record pace, 44.7s all round for the top bunch. And as you said, Bailey Stewart Campbell is under a lot of pressure from James Cook, but as I say that, it looks like James Cook has dropped back a little bit and he's under pressure from Johnny Garnett. The youngster is making a great impression on this championship at this round here at Tattershall. Tattershall. Great run through the final turn, across the start finish line to come. Will he be late on the brakes in turn 1? Late on the brakes to go, bikes are moving, nearly tags the back of James Cook. James Cook with a big slide coming through turn 1, loses the rear end. Johnny Garness had to set it up as well, so it looks like the tyres could be degrading ever so slightly, and that will be horrendous conditions for Cook and the rest.
And there was a big tank slapper he had to avoid going through as well, so that's real masterful bike control by the number 44 rider as well. Belford still leads with 5 laps to go, but it's not as secure. What's not as secure is Garness is up into 3rd place. James Cook is really struggling with the tyres. Perhaps they are past their sell-by date, as Liam mentioned just a moment ago. Garness promoted to the podium. Belford, though, is currently 2 seconds ahead. Bailey Stewart Campbell in 2nd. Garness up to 3rd. So Johnny Garness having a fantastic race ahead of James Cook. Eddie O'Shea still in 5th. Then it's Owen Mellon, Kyle Payne, Crosby, Brinton, Gomez the top 10, with Mellor, Hitchcock, Farragher, Carter Brown and Saffron Motley the top 15. That's as it is at the moment. 4 laps to go. This is all starting to heat up as Johnny Garness all over the back of the number 99 Bailey Stewart Campbell. Is this Johnny Garness's wake-up call to the world of mini GP50s? It certainly seems like it. Into turn number 9, he's on the attack. The number 57 rider right up the back of the number 99 into the slipstream. The final corner they go through. The fast right-hander leaning on the bike, heading over the right-hand side of the circuit to defend is Bailey Stewart Campbell. And Johnny Garness, my goodness me, is applying so much pressure. A much less experienced hand at this kind of category than Bailey Stewart Campbell, yet holding him up to a candle.
Yeah, with 3 laps remaining of this race, 2.5 laps in actual fact, if the positions remain the way they are, Evan Belford and James Cook will be tied at the top of the championship. As Garness looks up there instead of Stuart Campbell, nearly tags the back of the rider just in front, had to set it up. This is heating up with 2 and a bit laps remaining. Evan Belford is being smart. He's out front of this field, 2.1 seconds ahead. He wants to stay away from the piranhas behind him. Across start finish line to come. We've got Stuart Campbell defending it from Garness, nearly round the outside. 2 laps remaining of this incredible mini GP70 race number 3 here from round 4 at Tattershall. And we had a big wobble from one of the riders there. It looked like Stuart Campbell nearly had a wobble come through turn 2 into turn 3. Can Garness look for a way as he throws the bike into the left-hander, setting it back up again through the right. Now Johnny Garness is very quick through this right-hander here into turn number 7. He's not going to make it stick just yet. We've got James Cook dropping back, but Stuart Campbell is getting pushed aside. Will Garness make a move through? Not doing it just yet. Through the fast right-hander at turn number 9 on the power again. Now we've got a couple of opportunities for Garness. This is the last lap coming up now. Across start finish line, 2nd and 3rd, as quick as you like, into turn number 1. Stuart Campbell defends it. Can Garness make a move for 2nd and 3rd?
Well, Garness still remains in 3rd. Bailey Stewart Campbell soaking up so much pressure. He's doing a fantastic job of keeping it up there. But Evan Belford has done a fantastic job of keeping the pace up in the lead of the race. 2.2 seconds ahead of everyone else. Bailey Stewart Campbell still in 2nd place. Johnny Garness, though, has not got long in which to make the final move. He remains in 3rd, but with a 1/3 of a lap to go. Evan Belford on course to take yet another victory at Tattershall, but who will be in 2nd place?
Evan Belford powers out turn number 9 through turn number 10 across the start finish line. He takes the win. 3rd win of the weekend, a hat-trick for Belford. Stuart Campbell holds on to 2nd spot. Garness takes his first podium of the season in the mini GP70 class ahead of your championship leader James Cook, who is now tied on points with Evan Belford at the top of the championship. Eddie O'Shea could only manage 5th ahead of Owen Mellor, who puts out a fantastic effort this weekend, finishes in 6th in race number 3. Kyle Payne in 7th spot ahead of Harrison Crosby, who had a great start on bike number 69 ahead of Emmanuel Brinton, and Thomas Gomez on bike number 98 in 10th spot. Dylan Mellor next up, just missing out on the top 10 on bike number 31. Ryan Hitchcock on bike number 43 is in 12th ahead of Saffron Motley, who just managed to not finish the race on the last couple of laps. So Saffron Motley next up ahead of Carter Brown, and then Joe Farragher rounds out the points paying positions for the mini GP70 after 14 laps of fantastic, embroiled, thrilling race action here from Tattershall.
So great Action from Tattershall that the Mini GP70s really do give us some great racing. That third race is probably one of the finest ones I've seen in a very long time. We've seen some very good races from the Mini GP70s. Highlights then of that third and final Mini GP70 race of the weekend. The riders all making their way down towards the first corner. For the first time, Evan Belford got into the lead, never really challenged after that, but it was second place where the action really undertook. A few moments for the likes of Thomas Gomez having a good start. Retirement for Ollie Walker in that race. Unfortunate for Ollie, but the rest of the race carried on. The yellow flags came in pretty quickly, and that's when the brilliant action started going on. Side by side for James Cook and Bailey Stewart. Campbell did very well, and in fact they battled very hard. Eddie O'Shea fighting tooth and nail, but James Cook having a look at the inside, getting a bit impatient. Side by side all around the circuit, he tried to get through, but couldn't quite make it. But Johnny Garnes started a brilliant charge, the number 57 rider. Welcome to the world of Mini GP70s. This, though, the moment which a lot of people will be talking about. Oh, up the inside of the 114, pushing him out wide. Lost a couple of places. Bailey Stewart Campbell said, thanks, I'll take the position. And as we come up, Eddie O'Shea struggling then throughout the rest of the race. But Johnny Garnes smelling blood. A big moment for James Cook. That invited Johnny Garnes to really come for an attack. Up the inside, he took the position. Couldn't quite make it work. And he did make it past James Cook, but could he get past Bailey Stewart Campbell? Not quite. It was so close, but Evan Belford came home the line to take the win once again. Bailey Stewart Campbell second, third for the Johnny Garnes rider, the number 57. And I'm delighted to say we're joined by Sullivan Mounsey. We heard from you the other day when we spoke to you on camera, but welcome back. How'd your weekend go?
Well, it went quite good, thank you. But it was good. But on the 50 race, I high-sided, and as I high-sided, I slid for a long time. Everyone thought I was knocked out, but I just catching my breath back.
And you're all right now, are you? Or?
Yeah, I'm good. I was going to do 70s, but I just didn't feel like it, really.
Oh, really?
But, yeah. My helmet was broken, but we had a spare one. So I went to go out on that, but they didn't let me because I red flagged it.
I see. Well, I understand that. That's, sorry to hear about that, but you're looking forward to the next round. Lyd, have you been to the circuit before?
Well, I went there in 2016 when the first season when I started. It's the closest round. I might be doing that. I should be. It's quite far away though.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's quite close. It's the closest.
It's like far away, but completely different, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us, Sullivan. It's been great to have you in the box. We'll hope to hear from you very soon. So give the camera a wave and say goodbye to our audiences at home. Thank you for joining us, and we'll hope to hear and see from you soon. But as the action heads back out onto circuit, the Mini GP70s have just finished, so it will be the AC40 Pros which head out on circuit now. They'll be getting ready to go in a few moments' time, so it will be Liam Hodgins with the grid.
So Mason Foster, your championship leader, will be leading off pole position once again ahead of Ethan Sparks. Clayton Edmonds on bike 146 will be third on the grid ahead of Samuel Munson. Henry McCartney next up in fifth ahead of Warwick Brady in sixth spot. Greg Marshall in seventh. Finn and Wedity will be 8th on the grid ahead of Charlie Huntingford on bike number 76, Ruben Bray in 10th, and Max Wedity is rounding out your runners and riders.
So as the riders get ready to go for the start of this race, it will be a 9-lap race when we do get underway in a moment's time. They look towards the green flag now. They're going to raise it, and when they raise it, it's not when it goes up, it's when it goes down. That's when the race will get underway. Now it goes down and the grid get underway. A good start from Mason Foster. Ethan Sparks cuts to the entire other side of the circuit, the right-hand side of the circuit, to try and cover off everyone else. He's in second place for now. Samuel Munson makes a good start into third place at the moment ahead of Clayton Edmonds. They've had some good battles over the course of the weekend so far. So as they make their way into turn number 4, the first first of the hairpins for the first time. A good start from Mason Foster sees him off into the lead, but then second, third and fourth, Ethan Sparks, Samuel Munson and Clayton Edmonds once again.
Yes, Mason Foster pulling out a big gap at the front of the field once again, scurrying away from the rest of the pack in the early stages of this race. But we could see another battle embroiled between Edmonds, Munson and Sparks throughout this race at number 3. They're about to come across start finish line. We've got Ethan Sparks in second, 1.5 seconds from Mason Foster. We've got Munson just ahead of Clayton Edmonds. So there's a great battle on track between that bunch at the moment. But as we come through turn at number 3 and into turn 4, we've got a bit of a gap spreading out between all the riders. There's a bit of a battle for 5th and 6th at the moment, and we've got it looks like the number 31 looking up the inside. That is Henry McCartney looking for a way past, and he has done into 5th spot. That's Henry McCartney up into 5th spot there, taking advantage of the rider in front, just running a little wide.
Well, you don't want to be doing that too often, and these are short races. This is a 9-lap race, so every opportunity counts. Henry McCartney's got some real pace at the moment because he's fighting along with Warwick Brady. They were side by side coming out of turn number 9, heading up towards the start finish line now. He's in the slipstream, going to think about making a move into turn number 1 on rider's right hand side. Had a look up the inside on the brakes, couldn't quite make it work. Brady runs a little deep at the apex, but not quite enough for Henry McCartney to make a full effort. But 1.6 seconds ahead Mason Foster is to Ethan Sparks, then followed by Samuel Munson and Clayton Edmonds. Once again, they're pretty close, but it's in fact the battle between the top 2 or 3, which is very close indeed. So Ethan Sparks holding off Samuel Munson. That's into turn number 7. Out of turn 7 through 8 and into 9, the right-handed tight hairpin double apex, so quite easy to make an overtake. Henry McCartney is now through on Warwick Brady, so Henry McCartney into the top 5 already, which is very good going for Henry in this race. Mason Foster leads with 7 laps to go. Ethan Sparks is just ahead of Samuel Munson. That's second and third. Edmonds is fourth. Fifth is McCartney ahead of Brady. Finn and Werrity and Charlie Huntingford are 7th and 8th, ahead of Greg Marshall and Ruben Bray, with Max Werrity due to come past in 11th.
Henry McCartney is showing a lot of form at the moment as we get back to second and third. That is Munson up the inside of Sparks. Munson into second spot through turn number 5 into turn 6 they go. Will Sparks have anything to retaliate with Munson? Not doing so quite yet. So it's a number 72 of Munson that is up into second place. Can he make any inroads into your early race leader Mason Foster with a 2.6 second advantage as across start finish line now? Doesn't look like it could happen, but Ethan Sparks, a great run at turn 10 along the start finish line, late on the brakes to go. Ethan Sparks up the inside, not doing it quite yet. A fast swooping line from, was that Mason Foster?
That's Mason Foster
off. That's your race leader, Mason Foster, off at turn number 1. It looks like he tried to get back on into the race, not quite sure if he rejoined, so that is Mason Foster off the track, and he has rejoined. He's in 4th spot, so he's got plenty of time to make his way back into first position. Mason Foster in 4th spot, so you've got Munson leading from Ethan Sparks now.
And that adds an extra impetus for the pair of them to try and pull away a little bit. Ethan Sparks is desperate for a race victory, side by side, almost into turn number 9. Samuel Munson, the number 72 rider, working hard over the course of the weekend to get a good result. Could this be his just rewards? Over the line they are now, nose to tail. Ethan Sparks is on the inside at turn number 1. He's going to try and look up the inside on the brakes. He goes for it, but he almost collides with Samuel Munson, the number 72, the leader of this race. Ethan Sparks second. Clayton Edmonds is in third. Mason Foster was only 9/10 of a second behind Clayton Edmonds in 4th place, but will start closing in. We've got a rider who's dropped their bike. The rider's up and okay. The bike seems to have conked out. That looks like it's the number 18 bike, so that could be Greg Marshall. In fact, it could be Greg Marshall then out of this race. Mason Foster attacking the back of Clayton Edmonds for 3rd place. Into turn number 9 is through, so Mason Foster back onto the podium. There's 4 laps to go, and Mason Foster has got so much pace that the two fighting for the lead, Samuel Munson and Ethan Sparks, who are side by side into turn number 1. Ethan Sparks, here we go again.
Whoa.
Tries to go at the inside, he still can't get it stopped in time. Mason Foster on that last lap was 0.8 of a second quicker than them, so he is going to close up in a few moments. But will it be a last lap dash for the cash? We'll wait and see. Samuel Munson, though, the 72, is ahead of Ethan Sparks and Mason Foster.
My heart jumps into my throat every time Ethan Sparks looks up the inside of Munson into turn 1. Now these two can't scrap too much because, as you can see, the flash of yellow in the background was Foster. Foster, who crashed out of turn 1 a couple of laps ago, is looking to close the gap. Again, just over 3 laps remaining. The bikes are moving into turn 9. It's a horrible, nasty, tight right-hander before you power down into turn 10 through the fast right-hander. There's Foster. Foster's nearly closing the gap. Ethan Sparks, fantastic run out of turn 10 along the home straight, side by side into turn 1 once again. Don't take each other out, boys. You've got Mason Foster just behind you, who's closing the gap with the fastest lap of the race. Last time round at a 48.807 from Foster. As you can see, he's closing right on the back of the two in front of him. He'll be right on to them with a couple of corners, not laps, a couple of corners remaining as they're catching a back marker just in front.
Well, he closed in by 1.2 seconds. He set a new track record in his pursuit of the two leaders. They make their way into turn 7 now, and they are three ways fighting for the podium. They're making their way right around a few other riders in this race, and Ethan Sparks just about bullies his way into the lead of this race. Samuel Munson got squeezed out of turn number 6, so they're over the line. They were getting very close, but Samuel Munson just retains the lead. Ethan Sparks in second. Mason Foster is in third. They are now nose to tail with 2 laps to go, topping and tailing through turn number 2 into 3, left and right. They've got to really weave the bikes around with accuracy and precision. Mason Foster is sizing up Ethan Sparks to have a go up the inside at turn 4. Thought a little better about it. He ran deep. Then you've got the 2 other hairpins, the right-handed hairpin and the other left-handed hairpin on the infield section of this circuit. The number 72 really working the pace well, but Mason Foster is through. He's side by side. He has to duck out of a move through turn number 8, but with the cutback, that's going to help close him up. But with 1 lap to go, Samuel Munson leads this race. Ethan Sparks is second, but not anymore. Mason Foster right around the outside for the race lead. Right around the outside of the final corner. So much more pace on the final lap of this race. Mason Foster jumps around the outside to take the lead of this race. So with a fantastic overtake, real gutsy stuff. Mason Foster back into the lead, Samuel Munson second, and Ethan Sparks in third.
What an incredible move by Mason Foster round the outside of the fast, flat out turn number 10. I bet Sparks and Munson did not see that coming, but Munson still has a chance. Munson is tagging onto the back of Foster. Oh, he's down! Munson's down out of second spot through turn 7, pushed too hard, lost the front. He's back up, he's back in the race, so he's going to try and get 4th or 5th position, but that has let Foster off the hook.
And Mason Foster's down!
Foster's down! No! That's leaving Sparks in the lead. Sparks comes across the line, wins the race. High side there from Mason Foster. Incredible scenes here from the AC40 pros on the final lap. Your race leader goes down, your second position goes down, and Ethan Sparks scoops up the pieces and takes the race win as Foster comes back into the race. Incredible scenes there. Sparks takes the race win ahead of Clayton Edmonds. Samuel Munson, after crashing out of second since Foster crashed out, picks up the final podium position in third. Henry McCartney in fourth, Warwick Brady in fifth, Finnan Wedity in sixth spot. Mason Foster comes across the line to take 7th spot ahead of Charlie Huntingford, Ruben Bray, Max Wedity and Greg Marshall. Dan, I need a lie down.
Well, go and find yourself somewhere to lie down. We'll have a look at the highlights in a moment, but what an incredible finish to that race. Ethan Sparks, who we were saying, well, was out of it. Samuel Munson and Mason Foster were fighting together in a couple of corners, was gifted a race victory, so really has taken a good result. We'll get the highlights up for you in a minute. And my goodness me, that was some real action here at Tattershall in Lincolnshire. Round 4 of the 2019 FAB-Racing British Minibike Championships, the official partner series to the BSB and on the road to MotoGP.
So the highlights are popping up now, and it was Mason Foster from pole position as the flag dropped. Mason Foster led them away in the opening stages of this race. Munson, Sparks and Clayton Edmonds battled it out for second, third and fourth in the early stages of this race, and it was further battles further down the field from the AC40 Pro class race number 3. Now, as we had Munson looking all the way around Ethan Sparks, Edmonds was still just behind them there as Munson went up the inside of Sparks into turn number 5 on the opening stages of this race. But as they went into turn number 1, it was Mason Foster that went down from the lead in a couple of laps' time. So we have news for Munson, who looked down at his bike out of the race, but not yet. He was still pushing on ever so slightly. So as he pulled out, this was Munson pulling off from the previous race. So this was the previous race that Munson throws his bike down in anger. It was Sparks from Clayton Edmonds through race number 2. So great race 2 there. Race 3 was so action-packed that we're still trying to get our head over it. So Mason Foster was taking up the race win on race number 2. But we're going to have a little look back to the end of race number 3 from the AC40 Pro class, as it was very, very tight. So we had Foster up the inside of Sparks. Sparks held around the outside, late on the brakes into turn at number 9. But it was the next move that was the race-defining moment, as we thought at the time. Earlier on the power, but round the outside comes Mason Foster on Sparks and Munson across the start-finish line, and it was Mason Foster who took the lead of the race, but Munson wasn't giving up. Through turn 6 they went, into turn 7, Foster still in the lead, but Munson trying to tag onto the back, lost the front and slid out from second spot. We thought that was a race over as Munson got back into it, but just coming out of turn number 9, it would be Mason Foster high-siding from the lead of the race as he ran over the curb and onto the grass. Mason Foster pushing too hard, thinking that Munson was still behind him, and Ethan Sparks picking up the pieces and won the race. That was Ethan Sparks winning the race. Race number 3 of the AC40 Pros. Munson finished in 3rd, and we had Foster in 7th.
And after that, we do need a lie down, but we're not going to get one. It's the Pit Bike 140 and Moto Team riders who head out onto circuit. They're on the green flag lap at the moment, so it will line up as follows. Jamie King and Harvey Claridge are on the front row of the grid. Charlie Nesbitt is due to start in 3rd place, but we'll see about that with Will Howarth alongside him. Brad Ray and Richard Holmes-Williams, again, both of those might not be here. Matthew Bolsover, Ashley Midwood, Ian Jackson and Tom Ward round out the top 10, followed by Simon Clowes, Bernie Hook, Sean Whittaker, Fraser Kinnaird, Daniel Gilbert, Jason Pugh, Neil Kinnaird, Alistair Kinnaird, Roger Monks, Vince Bailey and Iona Glover rounding out the 21 strong field. Now, as we mentioned, there may be a few riders who aren't starting this race. For example, Brad Ray we didn't have earlier in an earlier race, neither did we have Richard Holmes-Williams, no Tom Ward either. Charlie Nesbitt does look like he's there, so we'll have a look at it and wait and see. In fact, no, can't quite see him there, but we're about to get in the way. The green flag goes up and it goes down again. A good start from Jamie King, good start as well from Harvey Claridge, so they go into the lead at the first time of asking this to be a 12-lap race. So Jamie King leads ahead of Harvey Claridge. 3rd place for Will Howarth. 4th place, and it's getting pretty hotly contested at the moment, right around the outside. And trying to defend, but is just about managing to get through. So Matthew Bolsover and Ashley Midwood getting involved with the battle for the lead so far, but Jay King resuming his position from earlier in the lead and soaking up a tremendously large amount of pressure as they make their way through the final few corners to start the 2nd lap of this race already. It's a short circuit around here, just 1 kilometre long, but packed full of action for these Pit Bike 140 and Moto Team riders. Side by side for Will Howarth back into 3rd place, coming over ahead of 421 of Matthew Bolsover. So Matthew Bolsover is in 4th place at the moment. Race leader, though, is in no question. It's Jamie King and Harvey Claridge. Harvey hoping for a good result to really top off his weekend.
He's had a couple of 3rd places. He was leading race number 1 yesterday before he crashed out at turn at number 1, but managed to remount and finish 3rd. But it's those two again, Jamie King and Harvey Claridge, your 2 championship regulars here in the Pit Bike 140, are pushing each other hammer and tong in the early stages of this race. But look who's behind them. It's the black bike of Will Howarth, the Moto Team bike, so a different class to the Pit Bike 140s, is in 3rd spot, and he won the overall race yesterday, so he's looking in fine form at the moment. He's got a great drive out of turn number 10 across start finish line, cuts the nose off of Harvey Claridge. He moves into 2nd spot and chases down race 2 race winner Jay King. So Jay King's going to have to put up a mighty defensive race if he can hold on to 1st position.
But Will Howarth carrying so much speed through the transition at 2 and 3, left and right. Jamie King runs very wide over the grass and over the curbing. That's not going to do him much good. Will Howarth has got such tighter lines, so taut and able just to place a bike where he wants it. He's able to really challenge for the race lead. Harvey Claridge is still in third place and is closing in a little bit, but Will Howarth is the man on the charge, the number 76 of Jay King, and well known for his defensive abilities. Over the line with 2 laps complete, 10 to go. Jamie King resumes the battle, but Will Howarth gets a great one out of the final corner, up the inside into turn 1. Has to let off the brakes, so Jamie King can just brake later. But as a reminder of the order, it's King, Howarth, Claridge at top 3. Bolsover and Midwood top 5 ahead of Ian Jackson. Simon Clowes in 7th ahead of Fraser Kinnaird. Sean Whittaker and Daniel Gilbert are your top 10, but it's currently 3 for the lead. King, Howarth, Claridge.
It is indeed, and Harvey Claridge is still tagging onto the back as Jamie King runs over the curb, exiting turn number 6. Now, you may notice that the Pit Bike 140 bikes are a little bit later on the brakes. They seem to be able to just brake a little bit deeper compared to the Moto Team bike of Will Howarth there. And Harvey Claridge is renowned for being able to ride fast through the twisty section of track, is still tagging onto the back. Have we got a change of lead? Yes, we do. Will Howarth pushes his way past Jay King into turn number 1. That is Will Howarth up into the lead of this race. Now can Jamie King retaliate with 9 and a bit laps to go of this race, or will Will Howarth pull an advantage? It looks like he's opening up a bit of an advantage at the moment. Harvey Claridge is still tagging onto the back, but the gaps are opening up between first, second and third.
And the advantage of Will Howarth now, being that he's the first person on circuit, is he can drive and ride the race as he wants, not behind someone and having to compromise and compensate for whatever's going on in front of him. There's a rider going slowly on the exit of turn number 6. That looks to be the number 26, which is the Ashley Midwood machine. So unfortunately Ashley having a bit of trouble at the moment. But Will Howarth 7/10 of a second ahead of Jamie King. New fastest lap on that last lap, and a confirmation it is the number 26 rider pulled off. They're just trying to get the bike restarted and going, so they want to get their racing's worth out of this race. Howarth enjoying a good ride out there so far, but now Jamie King coming under pressure from Harvey Claridge. Harvey's, as you've mentioned previously, Liam, very good around the twisty stuff, and there is a lot of twisty stuff at Tattershall, such as the corner they're in now, the third of the hairpin turns. Turn number 7, really pulling out a good run. Now, a little further back in the order, looking at a couple of other Moto Team riders. So the Pit Bike 140 and Moto Team races, for those of you who might not know so much about the categories, are 2 different races in one. Very simple. Moto Team bikes look a bit like the mini GP bikes we've been racing earlier on in the day, and the Pit Bikes look a bit more like the Extreme 200 bikes. They're very torquey machines opposed to very quick, fast, in a straight line Moto Team bikes, and a place like Tattershall can allow riders to really mix and match in terms of the way they run and how they run in this race. Will Howarth 1.2 seconds to the good ahead of Jamie King. Over the line though, the battle we are enjoying at the moment, the number 8 of Jason Pugh with Callum Wybrow and Neil Kinnaird, 10th, 11th and 12th. Neil Kinnaird making a place on Callum Wybrow, so the pit bike's not as well suited to the Tattershall circuit.
So yes, as you said, Dan, the Motor Team bikes do seem to be putting up a big fight compared to the Pit Bike 140 bikes this weekend, as we can see with Will Howarth leading the way. Just outside the top 10 is Callum Wybrow in that battle with Jason Pugh and Daniel Gilbert. Neil Kinnaird, Alistair Kinnaird in 12th and 13th. Roger Monks in 14th ahead of Vince Bailey. Ashley Midwood, who had a bit of a bike trouble, so not too sure if Ashley made it back into the race, but as we can see on screen, the battle between Daniel Gilbert, Jason Pugh and Callum Wybrow is still going hammer and tong. Callum Wybrow looking all over the back of the riders just in front, but there's a battle for second and third still embroiled at the moment between Harvey Claridge and Jamie King. They're still nose to tail just behind Will Howarth, the leader.
They're coming up towards the final corner. Howarth up and away. The gap is now 2.2 seconds, so Will Howarth going very quickly indeed. Jamie King and Harvey Claridge making their way through out of turn number 1 and up towards turns 2 and 3 now. Going left, going right, you've got to really hurl the bike over, getting it transition. It's such a tricky thing to do, and you're doing it so much. It's cooled down a bit now, so the tyres are in a better operating window for you to do it. But Jamie King taking much tighter lines, jumping around on the bike to really get it turned around. Harvey Claridge able to use his shoulders more to turn the bike, whereas Jamie King has to use more of his body and more of his leg. This is a battle for second place into turn number 9, and the yellow and black machine of the 76 is ahead of the all-white with orange wheels machine of the 16. 4 laps to go now, 8 laps completed by our race leader Will Howarth, but Harvey Claridge has got a good move up the inside into turn number 1, tries to go on it on Jamie King, and no success at the moment for that though.
Very, very close action between King and Claridge. Can Claridge carry the corner speed round the outside into 4? Not quite doing it just yet, but Jamie King's going very defensive, as you can see. Claridge, as you mentioned, Dan, is very good at using his body weight to stand the bike back up and get a turn from one end to the next. He uses that very elbow out style that you see from a lot of GP riders nowadays. As you said, Jamie King is still holding second position at the moment, as we see a battle embroiling further back between 12 and 13. That is Sean Whittaker and Fraser Kinnaird fighting hammer and tong in the Pit Bike 140 and Moto Team bikes. But we're back with Claridge and King, second and third, ticking off another lap across the start finish line. Can Claridge make a move on King? Not close enough just at the moment into turn number 1. Exits it, so he's quite good. He's very good in actual fact. Through turn number 2 into 3, carries a lot of corner speed. Can he make a move on King? But King's going defensive. He'd done this in race number 2 as he was battling for the lead.
And that was a fantastic 5-bike scrap for the race lead. As you say, he just soaked up so much pressure from the likes of Bradley Ray and Charlie Nesbitt. It's a real good experience, and a multiple champion in this category, Jamie King, he does know how to ride these bikes in this category. 3 laps to go now. Will Howarth is not troubling anyone at the moment. He's managed to pass a few other riders in this race. That's the traffic that Jamie King and Harvey Claridge are going through. But Will Howarth down towards turn number 1 now. He's just about on the apex, more specifically 3.085 seconds ahead of Jamie King and Harvey Claridge. Harvey Claridge just catching a rider at the wrong time and is stuck behind someone else, so Jamie King's managed to gap just a little bit. That's going to give him some breathing space with a lap and a half to go. And with a lap and a half to go, Will Howarth is sitting pretty. 2 wins out of 3 overall on a Moto Team bike would not be a bad result for him, would it?
It wouldn't indeed. That's actually unheard of, hearing a Moto Team bike winning the overall races in the Pit Bike 140 and Moto Team. Harvey Claridge is having a tough time with the Pit Bike 140 and Moto Team lapped riders, so he's dropped right back from the back of Jamie King. Simon Clowes is in 6th spot, your championship leader of the Moto Team riders. He's just behind Ian Jackson and Matthew Bolsover, so he'll be coming under a bit of pressure from Will Howarth in the championship if Will Howarth was a little bit closer and had done as many races. But Simon Clowes is in 6th spot, and we're on the final lap of the race. Will Howarth still leads the way, just ahead of Jamie King, who's pulled a bit of a gap from Harvey Claridge. Claridge got tangled up with the bag markers. Will Howarth coming through turn number 6, nearly getting tagged by the bag markers there. Goes round them. They actually touched, unfortunately, nearly getting touched by another couple of bag markers. Will Howarth on the 96 all black bike comes into turn number 9. Round the final tough corner, over the bumps he goes, powers out of turn 9 towards turn 10. It's going to be the second race win of the weekend for Will Howarth in the Pit Bike 140 and Moto Team, taking the overall race win for our Moto Team bike. Just behind him is your championship leader Jamie King, who stands up on the foot pegs. Harvey Claridge takes his 3rd hat-trick of the weekend, 3rd place right there for Harvey Claridge on bike number 16. Matthew Bolsover is powering out the final turn, comes across start finish line, pops a wheelie just ahead of Ian Jackson. We're looking at a couple of other fights further down the field, coming across the start finish line. Do some of the riders now. So as we look towards number 12, coming through turn number 9, that is of course Sean Whittaker, who is still in 7th spot. Over the start finish line will come Sean Whittaker to claim 7th spot, just behind the Moto Team championship leader Simon Clowes. So as Will Howarth, Jamie King, Harvey Claridge rounding out your podium positions. So we're going to have a small highlight reel of the action that just happened in the Pit Bike 140 and Moto Team, and it was a fantastic race between Harvey Claridge and Jamie King for 2nd and 3rd position, but Will Howarth taking his 2nd win of the weekend. So as it got underway, it was Jamie King who led from pole position from Harvey Claridge. Will Howarth slotted into 3rd spot there. Matthew Bolsover was chasing the back of Howarth in opening laps of the race, would eventually make it into 3rd, but Howarth eventually making it past the number 4-1 rider of Bolsover. There was Claridge all over the back of Howarth as Howarth put your championship leader Jamie King under pressure nearly into turn 1, but backed off as Jamie King was late on the brakes. Now we can see the riders, the top 3, Claridge, King and of course Howarth, but it was Howarth that got a great run out of turn number 10 across the start finish line, late on the brakes into turn 1, cuts the nose off of Jamie King ever so slightly. He was into the lead of the race, and that was the race leading overtake further down the field. There's embroiled action between the likes of Jason Pugh, Callum Wyburn and Alistair Kinnaird as they battled out. Harvey Claridge looked up the inside of Jamie King with a few laps remaining, but didn't quite make it stick. He was still chasing him down with a few laps to go, but as you can see, there was a few back marks through them, nice and easy, like a hot knife through butter, but it was Claridge who struggled. A bit of a contact there on the final lap between Howarth and the back markers there, but it didn't unsettle your race winner as he came across the line to take the checkered flag. It was Will Howarth popping a wheelie. The number 96 won the motor team, and of course the full class of Pit Bike 140 and motor teams ahead of Jamie King and Harvey Claridge.
Round 4 of the 2019 Cool FAB-Racing British Minibike Championships, live from Tattershall in Lincolnshire. Round 4 of the 2019 Cool FAB-Racing British Minibike Championships. The Junior LC40 Elites head out onto circuit ahead of their final race of the weekend, and they will be feeling the pressure to perform, the pressure as we are on the road to MotoGP and the official partner series to the BSB. Loads of great connections for many of our young riders to go on and have great success in their future careers, and it's going to be Mason Foster and Johnny Garnes once again starting on the front row of the grid. We'll bring you the full grid in just a moment's time, but thank you for joining us from Tattershall in Lincolnshire. Round 4 of the 2019 Championship. Lid in a few weeks' time, the 5th round of the season, when the championships really do start to become more crucial, as those points the riders are scoring now are going to become more and more important. So as we get underway, won the green flag lap, it will be Liam Hodgins with the grid. Liam, how will they line up for this final race of the day?
So it'll be Mason Foster that leads away from pole position for the final time of the LC40 Elite category today, ahead of his championship rival Johnny Garnes, and they've both given us fantastic battles so far this weekend in races 1 and 2. Emmanuel Brinton, this will be his final race in the Cool FAB-Racing British Minibike Championship for the time being, as the family and himself move off to Spain. So Emmanuel Brinton, his final race for the time being on bike number 93, goes off 3rd on the grid. Samuel Munson on bike 72 is going from 4th on the grid, ahead of Ronnie Harrison 5th. Josh Bannister on bike number 2 will be 6th. Clayton Edmonds will be starting from row number 4 and 7th spot, ahead of Ethan Sparks on bike number 62. Cameron Sill on bike 100 will be in 9th place on the grid on row number 5, ahead of the number 76 of Charlie Huntingford. We've got Henry McCartney on bike number 31, 11th place, ahead of Warwick Brady on bike number 99. Greg Marshall is next up in 13th spot on bike number 19, ahead of Finn and Werity. Ruben Bray on bike 12, 12 and 15th. And rounding out your runners and riders for the start of the final race for the LC40 Elite category is number 110, is Max Werity.
The 16 riders take their place on the grid, ready to start the race. The green flag will be waved in just a moment's time. They all look towards the green flag. It blows in the wind and it's underway. Good start by the two front row men. Mason Foster just squeezes in behind Johnny Garnes. So Johnny Garnes, fresh from his success in the Mini GP70s, leads this race from Mason Foster. 3rd place is a good start from Emmanuel Brinton. As we mentioned, potentially his last race in the Cool FAB-Racing paddock for a little while. It'd be great to have him back. It'd be great to get a podium in his final race. But as they make their way through the first few corners, they're in the infield section, turn 6 and turn 7. 2 very tight hairpins onto a fast run before the two final corners. It's a good start from Mason Foster and Johnny Garnes. Garnes gapping, but as we know from experience, Foster can work that back and he will. He is that quick.
Mason Foster is very quick on the home straight and exiting turn number 10, the final turn. But Garness is very quick through the tight and twisty section of the circuit. As you can imagine, Garness has got a bit of a lead over Foster, who in turn has an even bigger lead over the pursuing pack of Emmanuel Brinton, Samuel Munson, Ronnie Harris and the like. So we've got Foster trying his hardest to chase down Johnny Garness on bike number 57. Further back, Cameron Sewell leads the way ahead of Charlie Huntingford, Henry McCartney for the bottom fringes of the top 10. It looked like Edmonds tried to make a move on Bannister in front of him. Not quite yet. Bannister carrying the speed around the outside into turn number 7, then to turn 9. Over the bumps they go as they tick off another lap as the leaders come across start-finish line as quick as you like. And it's still Garness leading Foster from 57, leading number 88. Number 93 of Emmanuel Brinton has a little bit of a gap in his final outing in the LC40 Elite class of this year. He is in third spot. And
then Josh Bannister is fighting tooth and nail behind them. He's getting involved with it looks like Samuel Munson at the moment. Munson having a good run in this category, had troubles with his bike over the last few races today, and hopefully those demons have now gone. So number 2 just behind number 72. It's going to be a good race for them. They continue on with their racing. Everyone is starting to close up a little bit. There is action still going on, including the battle for the lead, which over the line now between the two race leaders, Johnny Garness and Mason Foster. 2 laps completed, and it's 0.8 of a second a difference in the gap. Brinton, Munson, Bannister, Edmonds are top 6. Ronnie Harris is ahead of Ethan Spark. Cameron Sewell and Henry McCartney are top 10, with Huntingford, Werrity, Brady, Bray, Marshall and Werrity your top 16.
Mason Foster, fastest lap of the race on the previous lap, a 47.6, brings that gap down to 0.7 of a second as we're watching Clayton Edmonds trying his hardest to get past Josh Bannister. That's been going for a couple of laps, and Bannister still holding 5th position ahead of Edmonds. Emmanuel Brinton is coming under a little bit of pressure now from Samuel Munson. Samuel Munson trying to get to that podium position there, not quite doing it just yet. So Munson just ahead of Bannister. He's gapped Bannister at the moment as they come across the line as quick as you like. It's going to be Brinton from Munson from Bannister. As Edmonds up the inside, not quite. He always takes that tight line into turn at number 1, but there's a gap at the front that we're keeping an eye on, and once again it's another new fastest lap from Foster at 47.4.
The gap's less than half a second now between Garness and Foster. There's hardly a gap now as they make their way into turns 6 and 7. Right-handed hairpin, second left-handed hairpin, really navigating their way around the circuit. The cooler conditions suiting the bikes more. Why they're going a little bit faster so they can get a little bit more power out of them. Emmanuel Brinton in third place is still under attack from the number 72 of Samuel Munson into turn 9. They're both incredibly tight on the apex at turn 9. Emmanuel good at defending. He's had a lot of experience at being able to defend great gaps, but side by side over the line, the number 72 on the inside couldn't quite make it work. So Emmanuel Brinton is still for now in third place, but the two leaders are still Garness and Foster down to 0.339 of a second. It is closing, and they've only got 5 laps to do it, so they've got to start doing it quickly. But Mason Foster, fresh from his disappointment a few races ago, would have had a word with himself, and they both would have had words with themselves and told themselves not to do it again.
Absolutely indeed, Dan. Now it's been 3 fastest laps in a row for Mason Foster as he continues to close down that gap to Johnny Garness. But looking at the gap here, there's a bit of a back marker in the way. Johnny Garness shakes his head as he comes past the back marker through the fast turn 10, and the gap is closed down even more. It's now 0.3 of a second between the top 2. Johnny Garness, Mason Foster, they're continuing to battle out. This is race number 3 of the weekend, the final race of the weekend, and once again we're watching these two championship contenders battling it out.
Speaking of battling it out, Samuel Munson's finally got past Emmanuel Brinton, so Munson promoted to the podium. So a good result there potentially for the number 72. 4 laps to go. Garness, Foster, Munson your top 3, with Brinton, Edmonds, Bannister, Harris, Sparks, Sewell and McCartney the top 10, making their way into the penultimate corner, into the final corner. Once again, Garness and Foster, no one in front of them to really help them negotiate, but it's going to be in a slipstream for Mason Foster. Gets a good run into turn number 1. He's up the inside. He tries to go for the overtake. He just made it work, but he couldn't. Johnny Garnes had the speed, had the exit out of turn number 2, couldn't make it work. So Foster still in second place, and Garnes into the infield where he's got so much more pace. He can just let the brakes loose, let them roll. 2.5 laps to go for the 2 race leaders. Garnes in the plum seat for now.
He is in the plum seat for now, but as we can see, Mason Foster is very quick down that home straight and into turn at number 1. Now further down the field, Clayton Edmonds has made it past Josh Bannister into 5th spot, so a change of 5th and 6th between Josh Bannister and, of course, Clayton Edmonds. Is Mason Foster close this time round? No, he's not. Johnny Garnes has opened up the gap at the top of the field for the time being. As they come across the line, look how much Foster closes in across the start finish line. We've got a rider down, that's Munson. Munson is out of 3rd place. Munson is down at turn number 9. That's unfortunate there for Munson. The number 72 rider crashes out of 3rd place, so that promotes Brenton up to 3rd spot once again. Clayton Edmonds into 4th. Josh Bannister into 5th, but Munson rejoins and he's still in 6th spot.
What a shame for Samuel Munson. He will have learned from that, but you got to make mistakes to know when not to make mistakes. With a lap and a half to go, the 2 leaders know what they're doing. Johnny Garnes has got the fastest lap of 47.387, so he's got half a second on Mason Foster as they start the final lap of the race through the final corner. And this will start the final race, but he's got another rider in front of him, which has slowed him up dramatically. That's closed the gap to Mason Foster. Foster with the run into turn 1. Can't go for the lunge. That would be a bit cheeky, really. So as they make their way into turns 2 and 3, left and right, preoccupied with the battle for the race lead. It's going to be such a challenging one. Garnes has got to really focus now. Half a lap to go into the infield. We've got a rider gone down at turn number 9. Yellow flags. We're not sure who that is, but as the race continues, the battle between Garnes and Foster's hotting up. It's closing up exponentially.
Now they're coming into turn 9. There will be no overtaking there as the yellow flags are out, so that was Mason Foster's last opportunity. But I say that he's very quick out of turn number 9. Johnny Garnes still leads the way coming through turn 10. It's going to be Johnny Garnes picking up the race win. Johnny Garnes, a hat-trick of wins here from Tattershall, just holds it off from Mason Foster, who picks up another 2nd position, but once again challenged Garnes all the way. And then we're looking back to the battle for 3rd. Who's it going to be? It's Emmanuel Brenton who takes 3rd position. There's Josh Bannister, just holds it. Is he going to hold it across the line? Just holds 4th position as Samuel Munson recovered, tried to get back on to the podium after he crashed out earlier on. So we're looking back to the field. Number 76 runs a little bit wide under pressure. That's Charlie Huntingford, Finn and Wedity 10th, 11th. It's going to be Huntingford across the line, rounding at the top 10 ahead of Wedity and Warwick Brady. Ruben Bray will be picking up the top 13. So once again, it was Johnny Garnes who set the fastest lap of the race at 47.3, ahead of Mason Foster, who was in 2nd spot. Emmanuel Brenton, great result for Emmanuel Brenton, who shows his prowess in his final outing at the FAB-Racing British Mini Bike Championship for the time being. He picks up 3rd spot. Josh Bannister in 4th, Samuel Munson 5th, Ronnie Harrison 6th, Ethan Sparks 7th, Cameron Sewell in 8th spot ahead of Henry McCartney. Charlie Huntingford rounds out the top 10, Finn and Wedity in 11th, Warwick Brady in 12th, Ruben Bray 13th, Greg Marshall 14th, Clayton Edmonds in 15th, and Max Wedity as your runners and riders.
So that was the result of the 3rd LC40 Elite race of the weekend. They get underway. A good start from both Garnes and Foster. Garnes makes it ahead into turn number 1. Came under increasing pressure over the laps. Josh Bannister made a good start and had a fight with Samuel Munson. Samuel Munson found a load of pace in that last race and had good reliability as well. Mason Foster did go for the overtake into turn number 1. He had the speed, but he couldn't quite make it work. The moment where it almost changed because Johnny Garnes got stuck behind another rider in the race. Mason Foster wasn't quite close enough, and this was on the final lap, so it was very tricky stuff indeed, but took the win. So Garnes, Foster and Brinson, your final podium for the LC40 Elite for the weekend. And well, we move on to what is the final race of the weekend. The Senior Mini Motos Race 3 head out onto circuit now. Round 4 of the 2019 FAB-Racing British Mini Bike Championships. We're at Tattershall in Lincolnshire. Thank you for joining us over the course of the weekend. It's been some great racing so far, and we expect yet more action to come from the next race, the final race, the Senior Mini Motos Race number 3.
Yes, we will indeed. It's going to be Bernie Hook He'll be hoping to increase his championship lead ahead of Matt Birkin. Matt Birkin had horrible luck in the previous race. The bike cut out. Technical issue with the number 5 of Matt Birkin, but it was Will Howarth who took the fight to Bernie Hook in race number 2 earlier on this afternoon, and we could see another ferocious battle between those two, the number 96 of Howarth and the 0 of Bernie Hook. So as the riders come over to the grid before the start of the green flag lap, they're lining up. All the marshals just making sure that all riders are lining up in the correct position, and you're tuned in to live coverage of the FAB-Racing British Mini Bike Championship here with the FAB-Racing and of course Motorsport Radio. Myself, Liam Hodgins, and Dan Marr is alongside me for the start of the final race of the weekend.
So as the riders make their way onto the circuit for the final time this weekend, they are preparing the one last green flag lap. The grid will be as follows from Liam.
So it's going to be Will Howarth who will lead off the way for the final time today, ahead of Bernie Hook in second spot. Matt Birkin, your former championship leader, has now dropped back into second, will be third on the grid ahead of the number 4 of Josh Birkin. Hopefully Josh can stay on track as he's crashed out the last couple of races. Andy Whedon will be fifth on the grid ahead of Simon Huntingford on bike number 47. Craig Ashall will be next up, starting off row number 4 from 7th spot. The 711 of Nick Bennett will be in 8th position on the grid ahead of Adam Ambrose on bike number 21. Starting off row number 5, Ashton Dean on bike 137, a very Valentino Rossi-esque helmet from 1997, will be 10th on the grid. And rounding out the runners and riders for the senior mini motos race number 3, the final race of the weekend, will be Ross Michael.
So they all line up, and that's the order they will line up in. We're getting ready for the race start for the final time this weekend at Tattershall. Of course, we have a second round at Tattershall in a few months' time for the finale of the 2019 season. But round 4 comes to an end now with the start of the Senior Mini Motos Race 3. Up towards the first corner for the first time, Will Howarth makes a good start, good enough certainly to get into the lead. Coming out of turn 1, everyone through nice and cleanly, what we like to have as they make their way through. Good start by Will Howarth. Bernie Hook also making a great start from the front row of the grid into second place. Matt Birkin third currently. Fourth place onwards is a bit contested. At one ride, I think Josh Birkin got a bit of a wiggle down at turn number 4. Nearly lost the front of the bike as he went over a bump. Nothing too bad though. They will continue through. And so far, Will Howarth showing what he's got by dominating in a fashion, although Bernie Hook is not wanting for him to have it his own way. They're side by side coming out of the final corner over the line for the first time out of 9. Will Howarth just leads ahead of Bernie Hook into turn 1. Can he make a challenge? Not quite. He looks for the left hand side, so ducking for a bit of free space rather than an overtake. Very sensible in this early stage of a race.
Yes, you don't want to be pushing too much in the early stages of this race. There's still a number of laps remaining, 9 laps remaining of the senior mini motor race. But it looks like maybe Bernie Hook has made a bit of a mistake. He's dropped back off the back of Will Howarth. Now, Will Howarth has a big gap as he head into turn at number 6, flicking the bike over to the left-hand side to turn number 7. So Bernie Hook has a big task ahead of him to try and catch the back of Will Howarth. Maybe it's a visor issue. Just looked like he tried to open his visor as he went into turn number 8. Matt Birkin is a little bit further back, so Matt Birkin isn't really making an impression on this race just yet. As they come across the start-finish line, it's going to be Howarth ahead of Hook, ahead of Matt Birkin, who leads the way ahead of Andy Whedon, and Josh Birkin dropping a little bit further back in the early stages of this race. And we can see there's 2 riders out there with cardboard cutouts of the numbers, which has been providing a lot of hilarity around the paddock.
Well, it makes it tricky to see the numbers, but it does bend quite easily in the air, so it can be a bit of a challenge to identify them. But as they make their way through, Josh Birkin involved in that battle currently. It's a 4-way scrap, but the confirmation of the order so far: Howarth, Hook and Birkin. Matt Birkin, your top 3. Andy Whedon once again in 4th place ahead of Simon Huntingford. A good run from Simon so far. Adam Ambrose and Nick Bennett 6th and 7th ahead of Craig Ashall, Josh Birkin and Ross Michael. Aston Dean running in 11th place so far. Over the line, Will Howarth once again is setting a nice quick lap. Bernie Hook is 1.2 seconds behind. Matt Birkin is about 4 seconds behind the race leader, Andy Whedon, followed by Simon Huntingford, Adam Ambrose, Craig Ashall and Nick Bennett, all getting involved down into turn number 1, a three-way scrap. Ambrose just ahead of Bennett and Ashall. They are scrapping for individual positions. That's going to be a bit of a challenge for them. They've still got 7 laps left to go, so a long time to decide that particular battle, making their way through turn number 3 and 4 into 4. The tight right-handed hairpin, the first of them. And well, the number 81 rider, Craig Ashall, in the middle of that scrap. So Ambrose, Ashall and Bennett. Bennett running a little bit deep, although it's now 4 riders scrapping for that particular position. Making his way through with a bit of a shove is Adam Ambrose. Elbows out action, and they really are giving it their all for the final race of the day.
Yes, Josh Birkin is right in the thick of the action at the moment. The number 4 tried to ride round the outside of Ashall. Ashall looks to the side of him. He does it. What a move there by Josh Birkin. We don't see that too often, as Ashall pushes the likes of Nick Bennett to the side there as they go into turn number 1. Birkin early on the power coming out of turn 1. Great traction from the number 4 rider as he powers past the number 21 of Ambrose. So that's Birkin up into 6th spot, as we still have a big gap at the top of the field between Howarth and Hook. It's still 1.1, but up the inside, well, we have Ashall not doing it just yet. He tried that last lap, he made it stick this time, but not this time round, where he has nearly tagged the back of the number 21 of Ambrose. But as he up the inside in turn 7, has to set the bike back up. There's a rider going slow out there on the circuit, not quite sure who that was. So as he went into turn number 4, there looks to be a bike problem. They're shaking their head, looking unhappy. So that's a blue bike out there, looking unhappy with the technical fault that seems to have come down on them. But around the outside, once again, will it be Ashall or will it be Bennett? Bennett takes the 8th spot as he head into turn number 1, Dan.
Yes, he has taken the spot with a good run out of the final corner, just staying in the slipstream, using the aerodynamic effect to pull themselves through. The effects of these larger riders than the kids obviously have a physically smaller footprint, so provide less of an effect. When the big adult riders get on there, then it's quite good. But as they make their way through, once again, 3-way scrap for 6th, 7th and 8th. Will Howarth, though, continuing on. 4 laps to go. We're about halfway through this race already, ahead of Bernie Hook. Running wide, though, was Craig Ashall at one point. Bernie Hook still in 2nd place. Matt Birkin in 3rd. 4th is due to be Andy Whedon. Yep, Simon Huntingford in 5th. Then it's Josh Birkin we expect to be ahead in 6th place. So Josh Birkin is 6th. Adam Ambrose, Nick Bennett is now ahead of Craig Ashall. They're side by side over the line. So Bennett and Ashall once again enjoying a full-on tete-a-tete. 4 laps to go. There's no sign of this battle for 8th and 9th, relenting through to 2 and 3. The leader is Will Howarth, the number 96, heading through the final 2 corners, I believe, and will be coming over the line to start another lap in just a moment. In fact, over the line now, down towards turn 1 is the number 96, Will Howarth, right at the apex. Good run from the number 96 machine. 4.6 seconds now ahead of Bernie Hook.
It looks like the battle for 3rd is heating up with Matt Birkin, Andy Whedon and Simon Huntingford. Matt Birkin's race pace has dropped off considerably the last couple of laps. Both Whedon and Huntingford were both 0.6 of a second faster than Matt Birkin, with 2.5 laps remaining. So Matt Birkin, as he comes through turn number 3, is getting hunted down by Whedon and Huntingford within the closing laps of this race. Josh Birkin still in 6th spot, so that seems to be the biggest battle on track at the moment. Seems to be the battle for 3rd. So can anyone make an inroad into Matt Birkin? Whedon possibly could, or so could possibly Huntingford.
But they haven't got a long time to do it. Will Howarth just starts his penultimate lap. 2 laps to go then for the number 96, bouncing over the big jump in the middle of the straight, pulling a bit of a wheelie as a rider's going a little slower down at turn number 9. We're not sure who that was. We'll get confirmation of that in a minute. It could be Ross Michael, according to our timing screens. Bernie Hook still 2nd, Birkin 3rd. He's 1.3 seconds ahead of Andy Whedon. Simon Huntingford's 1.0 seconds behind him, and the race pace is roughly equivalent. 52.0 for Andy, 52.5 for Matt Birkin, and 52.1 for Simon Huntingford. So Matt Birkin is being closed in on, but I fear that he might not get quite enough time to make the moment. But through the final few corners, about to start his final lap, is a number 96, Will Howarth, with a dominant display this race in race number 3, the Senior Mini Motos, the last race, the last lap of the day, and your leader is Will Howarth.
Will Howarth has been in a commanding spot so far in this race. Race number 3, he's got a big gap over Bernie Hook, 8.8 seconds. Matt Birkin still in third, and he's getting hunted down by Whedon and Huntingford as they come across the line to start the final lap. There's a second between them, so it's getting very close, but can Matt Birkin hold on? He's got a bit of a gap at the moment as Will Howarth rounds turn number 6, flicks it over to the left-hander of 7 for the final time, picks it back up early on the power, head down ever so slightly into the fast turn number 8, sets it back up to fire over to the right, over the bumps to turn number 9, early on the power, round the fast right-hander, the last corner. It's going to be Will Howarth who picks up the final race win of the weekend in the Senior Mini Motos. Will Howarth comes across the line. Next up, we're going to have Bernie Hook, who comes across the line now through the final turn. Bernie Hook picks up second spot on the grid, but a great battle further down the field. Who's it going to be? It looks like Tattershall and Ambrose are getting embroiled in a battle here, or maybe Nick Bennett just behind Tattershall. Will it be Tattershall, or will it be Ambrose, or will it be Bennett? Not quite sure it's going to be. This is the battle for the fringes of the top 10. So to come across start finish line now, can it be Bennett or will it be Tattershall? Tattershall still holds it round the outside. It's going to be Tattershall who takes 7th spot ahead of Nick Bennett. Looks like Nick Bennett got held up there by a couple of the back markers. Adam Ambrose in 9th, Ross Michael in 10th, and Aston Dean rounds out your runners and riders for the Senior Mini Motos race number 3 here from round 4 at Tattershall.
So a fantastic final race of the weekend. What a great performance from Will Howarth just to get in front in the commanding way that he did. Highlights coming up of the final race of the weekend, the Senior Mini Motos, and it will start with Will Howarth leading the race. It was a great start from the front row of the grid and then performs into the rest of it. So we got underway for the final race of the weekend. Great start by Will Howarth. Bernie Hook did challenge coming into turn number 1, but ultimately couldn't quite follow on with Will's pace, and it sort of relented from there. Matt Birkin had some great pace as well, trying to fight with Bernie Hook, but couldn't quite keep on. Bernie Hook then second. Will Howarth the race winner. Matt Birkin was in third, but a great battle between the likes of Craig Ashall, Nick Bennett, Josh Birkin getting involved at points as well. Side by side a few times into turn number 1. They're very tight inside corner at Tattershall Circuit in Lincolnshire. And as we continue on up towards the final few corners, still side by side, no matter what was happening. It was very exciting, entertaining, dramatic action from the Senior Mini Motos, as we've come to expect over the seasons at FAB-Racing. And well, as they kept fighting it out, Will Howarth had a much easier job of it, not really challenged in terms of making a real run for it. Just went off into the distance. 2 riders side by side with the cardboard fairings. I think it might catch on that, to be honest. But Will Howarth, your race winner for the final time at Tattershall in 2019. We continue with the highlights. There's plenty of stuff still going on in the background, but the checkered flag for Will Howarth bouncing over the curbs and the bumps at the very end. But as Will Howarth has done quite well. Side by side for highlights, 4 riders going side by side at some point as well, so it was a pretty good challenge. A great run right to the end of the day, and that was how the result worked for everyone else. So just a reminder, Will Howarth, Bernie Hook and Matt Birkin, that is your top 3, with Whedon and Huntingford the top 5, Josh Birkin ahead of Craig Ashall, Nick Bennett, Adam Ambrose, Ross Michael and Aston Dean round out the results. So as we now think to the end of the weekend, we're joined by a very special guest. We have got the organiser of the whole thing. We've got Roger Keys with us. So welcome to the live commentary box here, Roger. Good to have you with us. How was your day today?
Fairly hectic as usual when you're in the timing box. I haven't got my assistant timekeeper with me this weekend, but I've had great help from replacements for her, and that's been really good. I think the weekend's run really well. We've actually finished about 15 minutes early, which is always good. We've been really pleased with the fact the rain has held off, and Lincolnshire's had a lot of rain lately, so we're a bit worried about that, but as it's turned out, brilliant weather. I think we had multiple lap records broken. I think in one race we had the lap record went 4 times to 4 different riders, and I think in a couple of other races when they were to different riders, not the same rider all the time. I think the kids have enjoyed it. I think the adults have enjoyed it. The senior mini motors always enjoy it. The sidecars loved it. What more could we want than that? Why don't you come racing with us? Because you have some good fun. Good social activities in the evening. Well, doesn't get too much out of hand. And some good racing. What more could you want?
Well, you can't really ask for more, as you say, and I'm glad that you enjoyed some of the action this weekend. It's really been very, very interesting. Tattershall always provides some great action, very tight circuit, unlike Clay Pigeon where we were at last time. Also great racing, obviously, but a very quick circuit. It's a very different challenge for the riders.
Yes, in fact, the circuit probably is more suitable for the mini motos. Despite that, the mini GPs and the Pit Bike 140s, Extreme 200s all managed it extremely well and set some really good times. And it makes them work hard from time to time and gives the mini motos a little bit of an advantage in their flexibility to get round the corners really quickly. So it's good for them.
And the moto team's winning 2 out of 3 races overall, which is very...
Yep.
Well, it's heard of, but it's not a very likely situation to be in.
No, absolutely. So, I like the fact that in fact, the grids are getting almost too big now with the motor team and the Pit Bike 140s together. And a motor team rider who's riding a 50cc bike, remember, beating the bigger 4-strokes. Quite incredible.
Is that just the nature of this circuit that allows a smaller bike to compete with the more powerful bikes
No,
of
I
the
think
Pit
it's
Bike
the
140?
rider. I think it's the rider. Will's a great rider. The bikes, his dad's a great preparer of bikes, and you've got to give a lot of credit to him. He doesn't always turn up at the meetings, but he prepares the bikes. They always go well. They're very reliable, and he's determined, and that's what works. But it was quite surprising to see him beat the bigger bikes, not easily, but compete very, very well. And he's getting better and better each time he takes that out.
Could you just surmise this weekend as a whole?
Brilliant. That's what I would say. This one's worked really well. We had a few red flags. We've had a few fall-offs. We've had a few where the rider said, he's taken me off, or no, he didn't, and so on. But that always happens. You're going to get it. But in the end, they're all friends. And no, seriously, it's been a great weekend. We've had great commentary from 2 of you. We've had some great production work from Leicester. Thank you very much, Steve. Some great camera work from some great cameramen. What more could you want? It's great.
You can't really want for much more, can you? Well, thank you for joining us, Roger. It's
Not
been
a problem.
Great to have you. Hopefully we'll see you again very soon.
Yep.
Lid in a few weeks' time. That's not been there for a few years. That's going to be another challenge for the riders.
Absolutely. So, I can go home and do a lot more work and get all the results online, and you'll get all your video online, etc. As I say, this is going to be good for everybody. And I've got to go and pack up now.
Well, go and pack up, Roger. Thank you very much for your help this weekend. As always, thank you, Roger Keys, for joining us very briefly in the commentary box. And, it's been some great racing. So just thank you for joining us, Roger. And just quite quickly, Liam, surmise your sort of thoughts and opinions on this weekend, how it went.
Now, we've just passed the halfway point in the championship here, around number 4 of the championship, the FAB-Racing Mini Bikes British Championship. And of course, the championships are all heating up. Now, we're starting to get a big story of how the big championships are going to go. The Mini GP 50s, the Mini GP 70s, which now has seen the championship close up to equal points at the top of the championship between Belford and Cook. What more can you ask for? There's some great battles further down in the Mini Moto categories between Archie Gibbs, who's now taking over the championship lead from Ollie Sims and AC40 rookies, and of course the LC40 elites. It's been a great bunch of racing action here over the weekend at this tight and very narrow Tattershall racecourse. But once again, if there's a gap the riders want to go for it, they'll find it and they'll make it stick. And it's just given us some great race action, and just a big thank you to all the marshals, all the organisers, and of course the medical staff who have done an incredible job once again.
Well, as always, a big thank you. As you mentioned, we do always have to say a big thank you to the marshals and the medical guys, and of course Race Control, because without you guys and girls we simply couldn't go motor racing. It's been a very hot weekend this weekend, I think you'll agree, and it's always a challenge, but big thank you to all of you for your help over the weekend. And also show. A big thank you as well to our production team here, our producers and the camera people who have provided us some great angles and some great help over the course of the weekend. And thank you very much for tuning in. But we've got some highlights. We've got a highlight of the day, I'm being told. So we've got the highlight of the day is the incident with the two riders who went down on the last lap. I believe that was from the AC40 Pros. So just grab another quick view at that. Here comes the clip then. So Samuel Munson, the number 72, Mason Foster, the number 88. The two riders you want to look for. This is the number 72 in front. In the middle is Ethan Sparks, who was having a great race over the line for the penultimate time. This was to start the final lap. Mason Foster gets a great drive out of the final corner, and then as Samuel Munson is pursuing, we'll see a moment where he just makes a mistake, loses the front end right at the very end, jumps down a good angle, but gets underway again, which is what we wanted to see. But then, unbelievably, Mason Foster trips over the curbing, high sides, gets back onto the bike, carries on, and well, that's just fascinating stuff, isn't it? How they bounce back and carry on.
Well, they say kids always bounce, and you can clearly say there that Mason Foster did bounce. It was great to see that all riders were okay in the end. Mason Foster remounted to finish in 7th, and Samuel Munson got back up to finish in 3rd spot. So it was a very fantastic, ferocious race pace all the way through, and one of the best races of the weekend.
Well, it certainly was one of the best races of the weekend. Don't forget, if you want to go back, check out the whole of 2019's action, head over to the Cool FAB-Racing website, coolfabracing.co.uk, and on motorsport.radio for full archive of not just 2019 but 2018, 2017, even 2016. We've got loads of action for you to catch up on. So thank you very much for tuning in to our coverage here from Tattershall in Lincolnshire this weekend. So from Liam Hodgins and from myself, Dan Marr, thank you very much for joining us, and until next time, it's goodbye from me.
Cool Fab Racing, the official BSB partner series, and on the road to MotoGP.